result of this 39 billion shilling scam that we are privy to now. In his hometown of Mumias, where he ran for MP on a Jubilee ticket in 2017 and got a drubbing at the hands of ODM's John Manya Naika and Amani National Congress, Festus Fadamula, they call him Rashid Sonko. He is, in their eyes, a Sonko, a secretive political and business animal with expensive cars and bottomless pockets. My goodness. But it seems that he is the disgraced CS belongs to a new crop of leaders who are flashy, violent, mysteriously rich, and currently in big trouble with the state. So this is a new crop of leaders, apparently, that we have in this country, and he is just another one of them. As with most things about Rashid Echesa, the source of his fabulous wealth, like his level of education, is a mystery. He is the family man who's rarely seen with his wife, or wives, depending on who you speak to.
He's rarely seen with his wife.
Or wives. In public. Mm-hmm. He is the shadowy businessman with an office that does not seem to conduct any business. He is the generous man who is always hosting groups of people in his mother's home. Yet, his own home is just meters away. Clearly, the stage is being set to paint this man in new lights in which you had never seen him before. And questions then, of course, now are being asked in terms of really, who is this guy? And from all indications, it seemed that there was just scandal waiting at his door. And once it was opened...
That was it.
The floodgates have opened. And
good Lord.
This is it.
So, but then, so we're talking about fabulous wealth. Is there any specific story? Is there anything specific that's saying, for example, he owns this and the other? Or this is a kind of business dealings, shadowy business deals that he has?
That's the thing, though. There's nothing that is pointed to directly to say this is what he owns or does not own. This is the kind of business he was involved in over time. It's interesting because Atwoli, a crafty political showman himself of no mean repute and with decades of experience to boot, turned up at a meeting, worked up the crowd with fiery rhetoric and administered a tribal curse on the person of Rashid Echesa. Barely months on, Echesa was booted from the lofty heights of cabinet to fall kicking and screaming into the cold, lonely embrace of political obscurity. My goodness, this is flowering vocabulary.
It is, but consider what we traditionally as Kenyans consider to be wealth. If someone is seen constantly at funerals or at Harambes dishing out money, it will be assumed you're wealthy. If you drive a nice, massive Gazla and you live in some leafy suburb, no one will ask whether it's actually your house or whether you're renting it.
It doesn't matter.
No, they will know that you are wealthy. But of significance, it is reported that Echesa was the first Wanga, comes from Mumias, to actually become a minister. In the 56 years of our independence, no Wanga had ever been a minister.
Wanga?
It's a community in Western Kenya.
Oh, right, okay.
Nabongo.
Okay, got
They
it.
are the people in Western...
Nabongo Mumia of Wanga.
Got it, all right.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a kingdom, the Wanga kingdom. Okay. In Kenya, that's the one place where distinctly you can say these people had a kingdom and they had a king. So he comes from that particular kingdom, and he is the first person from that kingdom to actually hold a ministerial. If we are to go by the utterances that are attributed to him, it shot straight to his head.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is the man now who is in the middle of all of this. If all the reports are anything to go by, it's not a pretty picture for him right now, or not a pretty place to be in right now, because if anything, according to reports, he's going to go down for this. Could Kenyans perhaps be observing the beginning of the end of Sonkoism? That's the question.
Sonkoism, that is the nouveau riche.
Yes.
That can be explained.
The new crop of leaders who are flashy, violent, and mysteriously rich, and currently in big trouble with the state. That's the thing.
The beginning of the end.
These are the Sonkoists.
Nothing.
Nothing.
We'll come back actually and look at those. We can just, take a little bit of insights into that.
Right.
When you come back later into that story. So there is the nation Is policeman at Ruto offices found dead?
Yeah.
Dead men tell no tales. 40 billion fake gun tender scandal claims its first victim. As the body of Sergeant John Kipyegon Kenei, a security officer who was on duty on the day Chesa was arrested at the premises, is found in his house with a bullet wound in his head a day after he failed to record a statement with investigators. The story appears to directly link this, the death of this police officer, to the fake gun tender scandal. It's basically just saying this is why the man is dead. Of course, it's mysterious that the man was found dead, right?
Is it coincidence? Of course, that has to be.
Could it be coincidental? But also, I mean, what is it that would make the man do this? Of course, leave some funny note saying what has happened to him.
I know that the stars line up and all of this and things become aligned, but it seems that of course, it's going to raise eyebrows and the question marks are doubling up in people's minds now.
Not yet. This particular case.
There's more to come.
Assuredly, there's a lot more to come.
Right, but I mean, not coincidental that this gentleman then has been found dead at this point after all of this has happened. I mean,
maybe not. But also, maybe he committed suicide, or he was because
he was offed.
Here, the thing is, was he offed?
It is quick. It is quick to actually assume conjecture, but it may not be the case.
Yeah,
it happens that this gentleman is dead. It happens. This isn't coincidence, really, but these things happen. Yes,
deaths happen.
Death happens. We don't know. If we knew a lot about his life outside what we officially know,
and that's, I think, is what ought to come out. Because he says,
who is this
call
person?
my cousin Ben. That is apparently the note that he left. Call my cousin Ben. And he was supposed to have gone to record a statement with the DCI the day prior. He did not. When he was asked why, he said he was feeling unwell. And then the note is there, call my cousin Ben. This could be purely coincidental.
Could be.
Maybe something
I am
else
waiting
was
for both.
happening.
I am not going to tie the two together. No.
I am also finding it quite hard.
I am going to wait until there's more information. This jumping to the conclusion and determining just on that evidence alone, no.
Yeah.
It's not sufficient.
And I mean, it's so quick. The other day, there was an accident.
Sufficient.
There was an accident on Langata Road, and immediately people start saying, "Oh, because this guy was coming from Western Hotel." Oh, then no, come on.
No.
Okay, even if he came from Western Hotel, so
he was driving at a ridiculously high speed, and then he happened to
how
run
do
into
you
a
connect
tree.
the two?
You can't connect the two just from that.
What you can connect is that the report was people who worked at the hotel said this man was clearly inebriated, and they begged him not to drive. They even begged him to take an Uber. That is evidence. But he might as well have come from some other place.
Yeah.
Yes, it so happened that he came from that particular hotel. Yes.
I think it's important that we get more details about the man himself, the police officer John Kipyegon Kenei, his life, his last few days, his last few months, also what he was going through. Maybe there was something more and deeper to this.
Of course, I think this is one of the things we talk about. Then having to go deeper in the story and then find out what exactly happened with this gentleman. And I'm sure we'll have more details soon. It's necessary that once a splash like that is made, then the necessity of going deeper, of course, is obvious. That you need to give people more because, again, in the absence of information, speculation is rife.
Completely. Probe zeroes in on beneficiaries listed in Belgium's 100 million shilling estate. So another of those mysterious murder and cases. So detectives from the Homicide Investigations Unit have taken over investigations over the disappearance and possible killing of a Belgian national, Disela Mirele Lesoipa. This comes after details emerged that her closest confidant, Miss Lucy Waithera Jogona, allegedly forged a death certificate and claimed that she died of HIV/AIDS. Investigators are zeroing in on 6 people in forged documents filed in court, listing them as the beneficiaries of a 100 million shillings property that Miss Lesoipa owned in Nakuru. So this woman, Miss Jogona, is accused of working with a certain lawyer to forge documents, and then she started, filed succession documents, and then started renting out that property located in Milimani Estate. So she's been getting the rent for it. But apparently, now DCI is investigating, but what happened? How did this woman die? Ms. Waithera had told police that Ms. Loisoipa's body was cremated as she had allegedly wished, but police investigations revealed that she wanted her body donated to a university for research. Investigators also established that Loisoipa had in her will mentioned that she had money in 3 bank accounts. The Nation has established that detectives have been camping at Loisoipa's property and have asked Avipro, who's now occupying that building, to leave because it's a crime scene. Okay, sometimes cops as well. Now, surely, it's a crime scene. Leave.
How old is that crime scene?
I mean, this story is about, it's less than 2 weeks old from where we are.
And 2 weeks old. Imagine.
No,
Yes.
it's not 2 weeks old.
No.
The woman went missing in July last year.
Yes, it's not 2 weeks old.
But in terms of the investigation of when it was closed off, of when this particular area was closed off as a crime scene.
Oh yes,
It's 2 weeks old.
But
now-
also, remember,
Why is it? Why are you telling me to vacate this premise? I've been in this premise for so long. Surely,
Yes.
I mean,
and
telling me
it's a crime
it's
scene.
a crime scene.
After that period of time, what is this thing that
That
you
you're gonna
hope?
find.
Yes, what? Someone moves in, they'll clean it, they'll paint it, they'll renovate things. What on earth do you think you're going to find?
Secondly, is there any suspicion that this woman was killed in this particular building?
Of course, the question has to come in that whether due investigation was actually done or is being carried out. But it's clear that there's very little that will be found. Like you said, people are walking in and out. Somebody has come in, changed the way things originally were. There's been washing, there's been painting, there's been transfer of everything. I mean, come on.
You know,
A lot has happened.
We are not forensic investigators, but it's obvious.
Even if someone hadn't moved in, all right, and the place had actually stayed empty, unoccupied, believe me, you come to that place after that duration of time, the truth of the matter is you will be actually looking for something in a haystack. That needle is not going to be found.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, it's one of those stories that where you're wondering, why do police do this?
Not only that, you're wondering what actually is happening here. Because clearly there's an attempt to show that diligent police efforts are being made.
Yeah, atuwetoka hapa sasa.
Yes, sasa tuangalie vile tunaweza. Again, it's one of those stories where you ask, surely, fine, we've understood what you're trying to do, but explain it further because it's not making sense. It's not making sense at all.
Come on. I mean, it's some of these stories where you look at it and you wonder exactly what's going on. What on earth is going on? Take a short break at 16 minutes after 6 o'clock. This is a situation. We're broadcasting from Nairobi on 94.4. We're in Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 Nakuru, Eldoret, 96.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, Malindi, 97.7. Our live stream is up. Facebook, Spice FM KE, Twitter, at Spice FM KE, as well as YouTube channel, Spice FM KE. Also, log on to our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. This is broadcasting from Nairobi to the world. Good morning.
Family is where it all happens. The highs
Mostly cloudy
and the
conditions in
lows.
Nairobi today at 18 degrees. We're going to see high of 27. It's going to be a warm day in the capital today. In Nyeri at 15 degrees, clear skies and rain expected later with highs of 25 and lows of 14. It's 15 degrees with partly cloudy conditions in Nakuru with highs of 28 and lows of 14. In Eldoret at 14 degrees, clear skies as well, partly cloudy conditions to follow later with highs of 26 and lows of 14. In Kisumu at 21 degrees, clear skies, partly cloudy conditions later with highs of 31 and lows of 20. In Malindi, we see 27 degrees, partly cloudy conditions through the day with highs of 27 and highs of 32 and lows of 27. It's clear skies right now in Kampala with 21 degrees, rain expected later with highs of 29 and lows of 21. And we're going to look further afield right now in Lagos with 28 degrees. Rain expected later with highs of 36 and lows of 26. Further down south in Johannesburg at 17 degrees. Rain expected later with highs of 27 and lows of 17. Looking out into Europe, in London right now at 4 degrees. Clear skies, partly cloudy conditions to follow later with highs of 12 and lows of 4. Finally, in Paris at 4 degrees, clear skies, highs of 12 and lows of 3.
Breathing life into the 80s. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
What's happening in the papers this morning? What do you have to
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Rudimentary student of economics will tell you that one of the reasons why you find huge monolithic organizations breaking up is for purposes of not just diversity, but what you call specialization. Mm-hmm. A case in point was what we called East African Cargo Handling Services, Kenya Ports Authority and Cargo Handling Services. It used to be cargo handling, port services, one unit. Then experts came and said, you know something, we need to separate these two. Let cargo handling be a separate unit, and let just the port services be a separate unit. Then there was a time we had East African Telecoms Corporation.
Yeah.
Then they said, no. Let's put postal services aside, and let's put telecom services aside. Meaning, so that each unit functions efficiently. The reason why universities have grown over time is for the simple reason that, one, with diversity, and why they've been strewn all over the landscape, is so that you can bring education to the people. Now, they have grown and grown and grown. Now, we are being told there is a certain move to have a policy that makes it easier for the Ministry of Education to actually merge not just public universities, but also to be able to acquire private universities. This is something that has been in the works for some time, and it was opposed by unions, it was opposed by VCs. But now, the Minister for Education, who himself was a vice chancellor, who himself was a principal, who himself has been through this system, is spearheading a move to make it possible to actually undo what was undone a while back. Meaning, there was one university once upon a time. It was called the University of Nairobi.
Yeah.
Before that was Royal Technical College. Okay? As Royal Technical College, our degrees were from the University of London. Meaning it was a constituent college. With it, then came constituent colleges, Kenyatta University College. It was a constituent college of the University of Nairobi where people who studied education went to. With time, it became a university.
Yes.
And the story continues, and we know how it has developed.
Yes.
So now someone is telling you, we want to make it possible for Kenyatta University to become Nairobi, to be part of University of Nairobi again.
But if you look at the way the universities have sprung up around the country, it was one also for political reasons.
Yes.
Let's also be honest.
Yes.
You'll find in every county apart from Baringo, there's a university. Baringo now, they were campaigning during the funeral of the late Mzee Moi to have their own university.
They wanted a university as
Yes.
well.
So polytechnics were converted into universities.
Yes.
They were given charters.
Yes.
They are operating.
Yes.
Now you have so many universities
Yes.
offering so many courses.
Yes.
But not so many qualified lecturers.
Yes.
Now, that's I think one of the reasons why people, the honchos at the Education Ministry, are looking at it and saying, "Look, come on,
It's too much, man.
it's too much. Let's slow down."
Actually,
There's some universities that are not making sense even to themselves. They are taking.
how did they make sense to the point where they actually got a charter?
Right, because the process,
Politics.
the process of getting a charter isn't just, knock, knock, I want
No,
a
it
charter.
isn't.
No, you have
It
to go
isn't.
through,
It
it's
isn't.
vetted, people ask, that you go before the certain, a number, and not just one panel, there are a number of panels you go through,
There are boxes that have to be ticked.
ticked.
So you've checked all those boxes,
Right,
yes.
and somehow
Yes.
they
But
gave
then,
you one.
now viability. You see, on paper, it looked viable. And at that point, it was viable. Now, practically, viability is actually waning.
Now, the question
Number of
is,
students that you are enrolling.
yes,
You're a public university. Public
Yes.
university means that you're also being bankrolled by the public.
yes.
So the Ministry of Education is looking at how much money it's sending to a particular university and looking at how many students do you have? How many programs are you offering? Now, does it really make sense for you to be offering these programs and getting this money and running this huge facility just as yourself? Why not just merge with another one that is doing the same?
By
Close
the time a university is being set up, the very questions you're raising are the ones which I presume they would have looked into, because you know the demographics of the area you went to set up the university.
Yeah.
Remember, they all started of university colleges. When you hear of like Kipi University, it's a college. It is not a university per se. It's a constituent college of some
Moi.
public university. All right? And all of them, whether it's Rongo University, it's not a university. It's a university college. The point is,
But now haven't they become like now? If you go to Kirinyaga County, there's a university. It's called Kirinyaga University, and then nearby in Karatina, there's a university. In Nyeri, there's a university.
they were what you
You have
call
like
those
three
former
universities just-
sciences of former colleges of science and technology,
Yeah.
which also came up during a wave when every province or every district, if you're able to, needed
A technical.
college of science and technology.
Yes.
And they had them all over the country. Those are the ones which have now become universities. The point I am making here is this. The very things we are raising as things that are now bringing the discussion of merger are the very things that they looked at or looked into or gave us the impression they looked into when they gave these particular institutions that status.
Yes.
It is true that with time, certain demographics may change. It is also true that something as basic as the student population may not warrant the existence of that. But is it that the students aren't there, or is it because the economy is bad, people can't afford to go to university?
To go to university, because that's the thing. By the time a university was granted a charter and you had quite a number of people coming in, enrolling, you need to look then some way halfway down the line, you'll find that the population has reduced because not the same number of students are in school at the time of enrollment, and there's certain reasons for that fallout. People then decide, okay, well, I can find what I'm looking for at a different institution, or I'm not able to afford the fees anymore, whereas in the beginning of this, I thought I would be able to. And then there's certain things that the university promises that they will be able to do at some point, and then you find that down the line, they're not able to do
Yes.
because of the fact that the enrollment that they had anticipated then was not coming to.
I'm not even sure it's enrollment. Remember, like now, when the Commission for University Education brought issues with the JQuat PhDs, it was the same. It was looking at what's your capacity to actually
Actually,
dole out
one of the things
100 PhDs.
One of the things that
one year.
never came out of that particular report was that Kenya Medical Research Institute have an affiliation with JKUAT. And they also, KEMRI provides an education platform where many masters and PhD students can actually take a course. So the degrees are from the JKUAT. But people think that all that study takes place at the campus of JKUAT. But if you look at the capacity of KEMRI and you look at the research component and people who are constantly studying to get degrees, those numbers were actually possible.
But who are the assessors? I think the choir was saying, look, we're looking at all these people and who they've claimed to be. One assessor is dealing with 10, 15.
No, that's tricky.
Because that's what the report was actually saying. Look,
Yes.
we're looking at all these people and who they've cited as their PhD assessors. And you're like,
It's too much.
No, not necessarily.
According to the report, it was too much.
No, not necessarily. They are being judged against a benchmark of universities that don't do such things, where if you have a PhD student coming forth and actually qualifying, it's a big thing. Remember, for the longest time, our universities were accused of actually not producing people at the master's and PhD level.
Yeah.
And the question was, surely, then what are these universities doing? The report itself was comprehensive, but the point I'm making is this. Whenever people come to a conclusion, there are very many issues that sometimes are not highlighted adequately. I am saying what the Ministry of Education is doing is probably born out of studying, understanding that they have done for a period of time. And I'm saying pause and be a little more cautious, because these are gains that have been made by simply having these institutions. If you are going to have a merger, apart from just the discussions you're having with the VCs, there are other discussions you must have with other stakeholders, so that that merger, if it is to work, it is something that will be of benefit. And the communication process, which our institutions tend to be very poor at, needs to be crafted so that it's understood, because this thing will acquire political dimensions.
Of course it will.
And those are things you don't need in a setting of this sort, because all they're dealing with is facts. We don't have enough of this, we don't have this. So to ensure that we optimize the resources, this is what we need to do. Yes, that communication needs to be packaged appropriately, and sufficient discussion and discourse has to take place. If not, something that on paper may appear to be good, even as it's being reported now,
It will go south completely.
It's beginning to sound like these people are jumping the gun. And they rarely do, actually. Where they fail is to communicate
communication
properly. That's the thing. But I do see in the very near future that we're going to see a merge of a lot of these institutions, a merging of a lot of these institutions, because it is clear that even in terms of student populations, that some of these institutions they're not able to hold. At this point.
So maybe they just need to review them again.
Or review it, and
We
you know,
still need
take the
those
classification
technical
down a
colleges.
notch. Exactly. So maybe not universities, but we
Don't
need
be in a hurry.
colleges.
Pause.
Yeah, just
Pause,
hold on
pause,
and see
pause.
what is needed,
Pause.
and then we can
Or
move from there.
Focus certain. Just ensure that we are going to focus on certain subjects in this institution.
Yes.
Or we're going to do
Yes.
diploma level for now.
No,
you
no,
know?
no.
You're
Even-
still a university.
Still a
But it's
university,
okay.
but
But
you're
still
not-
offer shorter courses.
Yeah,
kind of
focus
thing.
on something
for
specific.
now
Yes.
as you grow.
Yeah, this is what we're going to focus on.
Right.
So that's a very good point, CT, that the one you've raised. Let's take a short break, right? And look at traffic. But before that, what do you have?
Well, it's interesting because here we see, of course, a report coming out from the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, or IPOA. Most cases on rogue police go cold. Victims cry for justice, even as police brutality and extrajudicial killings run rampant. Only 6. Oh, Lord. Only 6 out of the 5,940 cases that have been investigated by IPOA have resulted in convictions. This is according to a status report released by IPOA in a consultative meeting with members of the civil society on Monday. Some 75 cases are pending before court. There are quite a number of statistics that we can look at here. The 6 convictions result from 1,889 cases that have been dealt with conclusivity, and with 2,269 others still under investigation. 736 cases closed after preliminary investigations, 112 cases under further investigation, 119 cases on legal review, 3 cases forwarded, 2,269 under active investigation, 75 pending before court, 6 convictions made, 220 cases forwarded to the Office of the DPP, 1 case forwarded to the EACC, 1981 cases have been conducted, 274 police operations have been monitored to check human rights. I mean, it goes on and on and
IPOA.
on.
IPOA
But-
is on the spot.
Yeah, IPOA clearly is on the spot here. And it's interesting because the chairperson, Anne McCorry, says that there are plans to devolve the body to the county level, adding that the success of IPOA required concerted efforts. So they're on the spot, but she says, basically, we need help.
Look at what the Nation cartoonist has done today. Says IPOA is basically applying Band-Aids.
On a heart attack. I mean-
That's a pistol, some bullets there, spent cartridges, and what is IPOA doing? Just applying Band-Aid
Right.
on the muzzle of the gun.
By the way, of interest, you will find that there has been a move within the National Assembly, and they want the locust division declared a national disaster.
Oh, really? Perhaps
They're awake.
Oh, finally, yeah. Well, the light has been on for a minute. Somebody decided to roll
Tharaka
over.
MP Gitonga Murugara moved the House to adjourn to discuss the issue, saying that unless the insects are contained, they will cause a severe critical food shortage in the country.
They will cause? Are you kidding me?
Unless
we
they're
have
contained.
14 counties where all of the initial vegetation has been eaten. What are they talking about will happen? This is something that they see is going to happen in the future. We're in it. It's happening now. It's happening now. I guess what they're waiting for is that you see that crops are not growing and that people, and then food prices shoot up and then people don't have enough. It's not something that is going to happen. It is something that is happening now.
This is what the government is doing. So yes, our friend, U.S. Secretary of State has announced they're giving us some cash.
Yes.
East Africa to fight locust. We're waiting for money to come from elsewhere. This is what's going to happen. 27 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room.
Okay, let's take a look at more. Thika Road, actually, from Survey. It's actually flowing very well today, and we'll see if that changes in a short while. But Mombasa Road this morning, motorists, please be extremely careful. It's quite foggy all the way from Kitengela and moving down. So first of all, you want to engage your fog lights this morning, but at the same time, you want to approach with caution. It's not always this foggy, but this is what we have right now. It's not dew, it's fog, and it's actually very, very low today. So you want to be very careful. Some showers also, so the roads are just a little bit slippery. Okay, in other parts of the city today, we see that just around Juja Road is a bit slow, but it's okay. Thika Superhighway is at a standstill from Safari Park Hotel at this time, unfortunately. From about 6:18 this morning, use the service lane if you can, because the main road is absolutely not moving at all. Coming off Ngong Road and as well as Langata Road, not so bad this morning. We'll see in a short while what it looks like, but it's a Friday morning, things not so bad except what we see on Thika Road at the moment. All right, right around Survey, unfortunately, there is an accident that has taken place in that area as well, and that means that there's a lifeless body there on the road. So please approach with caution, as the emergency services have already been alerted, so that should be removed in a short while. Spice FMKE on Twitter, let us know what you see.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz,
doing?
neo
5
soul,
minutes to
and
7 o'clock,
nostalgic
this is
ballads.
Kenya's biggest conversation.
You're listening to Spice
Bless you.
FM.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. We're taking a look at the headlines. What do you have, CT?
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Salva Kiir and Riek Machar agreed to form new government tomorrow.
For the 27th
Yeah,
time.
as in tomorrow, Saturday.
Mornings
tomorrow.
done right.
An entire government.
94.4
Yes,
Spice
yeah,
FM,
The
Nairobi.
thing that I found particularly interesting was when the president said, look, some of you who are currently in my government may find you don't have jobs. Please, do not create war. I'm actually tired of this fighting. Okay, we need to find a situation, or we need to form something that is going to make the country move forward. Yes. This fighting, enough is enough. Let us move forward.
It's interesting, because they said we had a meeting. I mean, it sounds so simplistic that this can actually be done, right? We had a meeting with the president on the outstanding issues, according to Mr. Machar, and we have agreed to form the government on the 22nd of February. On the 22nd, it will happen tomorrow.
Yes. Meaning they've thrashed out the issues. There was the issue of the provinces or districts being
the initial
regions being reformatted. That caused issues.
Yeah.
But they've come to understand and resolve all those issues. So here,
what's Machar going to be in this government?
They're
the
going to
only vice president?
No, they're going to be two.
See.
They're going to be two, but he will be the principal one.
So, Kiir is president.
Kiir is president.
Dr. Machar
it's only one.
Is one president.
One president, yes.
And then Dr. Machar
Principal.
is a principal vice president.
Yes.
This has happened before,
It has happened before. And the two of them are the ones who are going to decide how the country is going to move forward. The two of them. They were emphatic about the two of them. But
that they will be running things together.
Yes.
Until one of them complains at the other one. Now, what is Machar going to do with his forces? Are they amalgamating
No,
the forces
this is the
into
thing.
one?
Salva Kiir is going to take over that particular docket of defense, so to speak. And he gave assurances that the forces that are aligned to the opposition are under his protection. What that means, I'm not really sure. But those are the pronouncements that came out, that the position is secure. I presume they might go the way that Uganda went, where they're simply absorbed into the military, so they are part and parcel of the armed forces of that country.
They
Right.
try to do that, but still, those guys they know where their allegiance lies.
They do.
And it just needs Dr. Riek Machar to get angry again,
They do.
and we'll get back there.
They do. I think it may take a bit of time before we get there again, because remember, they had their independence, and immediately after, they now started fighting independently.
Yes.
So, and that has not been good for the country.
These guys always have issues.
And they are-
especially these two. And I think the future of South Sudan would be best if these two gentlemen are not at the helm.
Why do you say that?
Because these two are the ones who've constantly been fighting.
Usually,
Yes, they are the tip of the spear and all, but you can say, but I think the leadership of Dr. Riek Machar in SPLA, it's called out SPLA in opposition, and then the leadership of Salva Kiir, SPLA, they're
Why-
the ones who are constantly, Dr. Machar does not believe that Salva Kiir deserves to be in that state house.
well, when you see a situation where peace has been arrived at, the thing that is we're not being told is the people who brokered it. Because left to their own devices, I'm certain they'd be quite happy to trying to kill each other. Quite
Yep,
happy.
yep.
And they've shown that time and again.
Right.
And for certain agreements to be firmed, it means certain guarantees and assurances have been given by those who've been mediating. This thing was mediated. There's no question about it.
Yes, of
For
course.
people to be shaking hands, hugging, and when they know very well that they'd rather be shooting each other in the head, it means it's been mediated, and they've understood that it's in both their interests to follow this path. And if they're convinced, now they've also convinced the hawks and the eagles within their ranks, say, look, folks, this one can actually work for us. So let's go with the program.
Fly slowly.
Yes. For this to have been arrived at, it has been brokered and assurances have been given, and they know that this is the path to follow.
But
Yeah,
see,
doubts have been
yes.
set aside.
This
At least
is
on the
not-
face of it.
In
At
the
least
last,
on the face
in the
of
last
it.
10 years, how many times have these gentlemen shaken hands?
Oh, no.
In the last 10, how many times have they formed a government together
It is
and then attacked one another,
it is fine.
trying to kill each other, following each other into the bush, and ensuring that that man is out of this country? These guys.
Remember the culture that these people, as we refer to them, our friends in southern Sudan have had. Remember that they had an ongoing war for close to 50 years.
A very long time, right?
So
yeah.
almost 2 generations. So you're talking about a people whose way of life has actually been characterized by war, not peace.
Yes.
This is all they knew.
Yeah. So the likelihood of going back into factory settings is very
It's
easy.
very easy.
Yes.
Unless your leaders are sober. And that's why I'm saying these leaders are not the ones to take South Sudan to the next
So
step.
who would do it if not them?
Somebody else.
Remember,
They
the
just
person
need to
whom
step
everyone sort of like fell under easily, Garang, was killed in
Was killed,
in
unfortunately.
that freak accident, and people were blamed for it. All right,
Yep.
and with good reason, with very good reason. But here we are now. Of significance, if we move down south, there's a little country called Lesotho. Yes, their prime minister, Mr. Thomas Tambane, is being charged with the murder of his former wife. The 80-year-old president has said he's going to step aside and is citing old age. His new wife has already been charged with this murder. Now, he stands. Now, why I'm bringing this thing up, we seem to assume in this country that people in high offices cannot be charged. Here is a prime minister being charged.
Stepping aside, no
And
less.
not only that, the country, the clamor for him to step down has been deafening. And there are people saying the moment it was mentioned, this is what caught my attention. The moment he was charged, he should have stepped down. Now, this is something that needs to happen here.
It does.
You're charged.
And it's clear that it can actually happen.
Yes. The moment you're charged, step down.
Step down.
Yes. And if you don't step down, this is where now legislation comes in. They should speed up that process for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And see exactly where you stand.
And I think that's another clear example that, people, because the people who were agitating for this were the people of the
Oh,
country.
they've agitated for it. They've pushed.
They
that agenda.
protested, they pushed, they lobbied, they picketed, they said, you know what, you must. If on whatever grounds you must, and actually we see
Kakando.
that it actually works. Speaking of things that work, and looking at the example of Namibia again, we brought up Namibia yesterday and how they seem to get things right. On matters trade, the country, Namibia, became the first African country to export red meat to the US after it sent 25 tons of beef to Philadelphia, following 2 decades of haggling over safety regulation and logistics. The arid Southern African nation, known for free-range, hormone-free beef, is set to export 860 tons in 2020 to the US, rising to 5,000 by 2025. The US tops the world list for red meat consumption per head. So Namibia has got it right in this case.
They have where US is concerned.
Where the US is
But
concerned.
Botswana got it right also not very long ago. But they were exported to what now be known as the EU.
Yeah. In this case, for the US to receive a perishable from an African country, oh my goodness, is a big
20 years
deal.
of haggling.
20 years of haggling.
Actually, the truth of the matter is they're tired of consuming
Their own
antibiotics.
Their own rubber.
This is the thing.
Yes.
That's the thing.
They're looking for some fresh stuff
realize
and they
this
got
stuff,
it.
man.
We can't.
Note, hormone-free.
Hormone free
Yes.
and
Free
free
range.
range.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Meaning the sort of cows we see every day here.
the ones that we know we have.
The ones that roam the streets of Nairobi.
Yes.
There are ones that eat plastic.
Yes.
These are the ones.
These
They're
are the
the
ones
ones-
that they're
free
finally
range.
accepting.
These are the ones.
Free range.
But also, it's good to see, when governments are actually fighting so hard to have markets for their produce.
Absolutely.
When you look at our livestock market, our livestock sector in Kenya, and the way that our government is trying to, whatever our government does to secure external markets, zero.
You know,
Look, and even
Zero.
when you talk
Eric,
about
the-
external,
yes.
even if you were to keep it in Africa, right?
Yeah.
Even trade within Africa, Kenya, I mean, from what we see, the livestock market is actually top notch, top
Ours
notch
is
stuff.
top-notch, but it's very, very expensive. Actually, Kenyan beef is said to be the 4th most expensive beef in the world.
Good Lord.
4th most expensive. And it's just because of all those constraints that we have. So much of our beef is coming from northeastern areas. What's the transportation like? All those, they add up to the cost.
again,
Of course,
So
cost
by the
of
time
feed
you-
and
yeah.
such.
if I may travel down memory lane, when we had Kenya Meat Commission, we were a serious beef exporter at some point. Yes, we export. We were known, just like Kenya Creameries Corporation (KCC) was a known exporter of dairy products. Exporter, meaning it met the standards that the importers required in Europe. Oh
Yeah.
yes. Our story is one of receding. We seem to, with every step we take forward, we seem to take something like 5 steps back.
Back.
Yep.
Yes. Now, that seems to be a legacy that we actually need to put an end to.
And the
think
story
so.
of these guys, for example, I know I've had conversations with traders who export livestock produce, especially sheep and goat, to the Middle East. So Ethiopia went and secured a deal with Saudi Arabia and with the Emirates. So Ethiopian sheep and goat and beef is taken to those markets at a specified price. So there's already an order. We need X number of tons, and this is how much you're bringing, and this is how much you shall pay for it. Now, Kenyan guys operate in the Kiamaiko of Dubai. So you basically have your sheep and goat here. You put on the Emirates flight. It lands in Dubai. Because there's no proper negotiation, your Kenyan produce
Goat and sheep.
is basically just going to the local market.
Essentially, it's a raw product.
It's and when it goes to that local market, you go there and find a Pakistani guy who tells you, today there's so much. Ethiopia has brought in a lot. In fact, also Somalia has brought in something. So you guy,
Sorry.
we can't take yours. Bana, I've already brought these things here. You
And
can't
you're the one
take-
who told me to bring them in
You're
the
the one
first
who told me
place.
to bring
I
them in
think
the
the
first
most I can do is maybe buy at about $20, just $20 a kilo, maybe. Guy takes and goes and sells it for whatever amount, but you have no negotiation because our government has not been supporting our traders to export and to secure markets for them. This is what is happening to
Quite a number. These are the things that,
our produce.
also talking about the negotiation and then what you put into that process, there are very many elements that need to be looked at. And I think if we're able to lock down at that elemental stage, then you have a lot of these things then being able to be sorted out now further down the line. Unfortunately, we do a lot of work backtracking, and that doesn't help. It doesn't.
One of the things, though, I think we want to go into the hour, don't we?
No, just a short break and then we continue the conversation. At 13 minutes to 7 o'clock, this is a situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're taking a look at the headlines, and of course, we're still continuing with that. We are looking at what we've seen Namibia, Botswana doing, being able to access international markets for their produce. Also, what else is covered? We've just talked about South Sudan, what's happening regionally. We know that locusts are now a menace, that a local MP has seen the need to ask the government to declare this a national disaster. But else, let's take just a short break and then we continue the conversation.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Breathing life into the 90s.
So, of course, in the paper again, headline story of
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Saying, well, the Kenyans who are stuck in Wuhan, in China, no hope of you coming
Mature,
back.
intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
We'll be talking to Cyrus Aguna, the government spokesperson. He'll be joining us at 8 o'clock. And also we'll be able to call in with some Kenyans who are in China, who are actually stuck in Wuhan province. 2 Kenyans will be able to talk to us. So we also saw the man who's applying for the job, who was being interviewed for the job, Mr. Mutahi Kagwe, by MPs to be the CS for Health, saying he's going to destroy all cartelpreneurs at the ministry. But one thing that is stuck when you were saying, when I get there, the first thing I want to do is deal with this coronavirus story. Because, things need to be moved around. First of all...
Deal with the story how?
First of all, we only had 2 kits that could test the temperature at people at the airport. Then Safaricom has donated 4. Safaricom has donated 4. Now we have 6. The government has done nothing. Now we have 6. Now, that's a bit better. We need to do something. And then we hear the PS for the National Treasury saying that the Health Ministry has requested the National Treasury to give them 1.8 billion shillings so that they can construct quarantine facility for coronavirus. 1.8 billion shillings for coronavirus, for constructing a quarantine facility.
Are they not the same people who told us we already had a facility at Kenyatta?
No, it's Eric.
No. Eric didn't create
I was just
that.
reporting.
He was just reporting what had been
they
told.
said they had. Oh, right. That they said they had a room or so.
No.
A
They had
tent,
a facility.
a facility, some at the Kenyatta National Hospital. But they needed something else then to be done.
I don't see why you need 1.8 billion shillings
Good
to construct a facility.
These guys just
by the time you
throw these figures around, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. Somebody just said,
The way Kenyans do things, by the time we get that money, go through the procurement process, identify a contractor, that facility will be up in December.
Not only that,
they're hoping to follow the 5-day model of China.
and in that process, WHO will have come in with this help, and so will have come with this.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this madness that we have. And I was asking myself, what is it that has made people who work in the public service so lackadaisical? What is it that has made them sort of like have this attitude of having given up? Where they sort of like sit and think, if this is what someone wants to do. Yes. What happened? Because it was, people don't want to fight.
Omo, the thing weak me because I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't know. People don't want to have to push. You want things to be simple and easy all the time. Life dictates the opposite.
It's like you want to be left alone. You don't want to be bothered with all of this.
Why should it's almost as if we have people in public service, like you're saying, who are basically saying, why are you disturbing me with the necessities of this job?
Just leave me alone.
Why should you give me this work to do? Allow me be.
I don't want problems. If someone has decided to, I don't know. I don't want
okay.
to be, I don't want problems. You carry on with whatever
Just
you're
do
doing.
whatever you need to
Yes,
do.
but
just
don't
leave
involve
me
me.
alone.
Yes.
Imagine. Imagine. That is what we hear people saying. 1.8 billion.
It is that
build quarantine.
tumeachia Mungu.
And then
Yes.
you know what is going to happen? God forbid, in the event that we have more and more cases in this country, somebody's going to say, but we said we needed money to build a quarantine facility. They said there's no money. Now what
How
do you
many
want us to
pending
do?
issues do we have with the Ministry of Health? How
Seriously
many
speaking.
issues that are unresolved?
Many.
From MES to UHC to facilities that don't
Now
have
it's
basic
COVID.
amenities. You want to add, and this is countrywide, from cancer data
To the
and
mobile clinics
information
that are sitting rotting at
to
Malare.
lack of blood in this country to where are we going to where do you even want us
Now
to
they
start?
want to convince
Then you want
us
to come and tell
that
us that it's
1.8
1.8 billion
will solve this problem.
to build a quarantine facility is what's going to solve the problem. Even if
People are
we
being
are
quarantined
stupid,
in China, all right? In
even
the
if we are
entire-
stupid, then add deaf and dumb on top of all of that. Come
Surely.
on, who can't see? Who can't understand? And this thing of throwing words at issues, it has really got to stop. It just makes us look like a joke in all of this. Add some floppy shoes and a red nose, and that's basically what it's telling people.
You know,
this is a joke.
One of the things that came to the fore in the discussions about this former minister, who seems to have more problems than he knows where to take, is how he was vetted. There are certain basic requirements of education. And from what I read, even the primary education,
Certificate he didn't have.
well, it is reported that it hasn't been cited. Okay?
Yeah.
So, which means even a basic Form 4. Now, there's reporting that you may call malicious, but there are those who even argue that the construction of a clear sentence in English for the longest time was a bit of a struggle. Now, you don't need to speak English to be an effective minister. That much I understand. But a certain basic education is necessary.
It's necessary.
So, how did this gentleman get vetted when I know for a fact that there is clarity as to certain basics that somebody must have if they're going to be in a certain position?
It was promoting youth. Youth employment, give the youth an opportunity. Yes, can he converse in English? Yes, he can. Does he understand matters of youth and sports? Yes, he could do that. He can take up that docket. I'm sure NIS had given the president all the dossier that he needed on this. But for political expediency, I think this thing called political expediency really costs us.
It does, doesn't
Because
it?
this is
Doesn't
I am
it?
sure the NIS dossier on this gentleman had a lot from the very beginning.
And they probably said, guys,
Not this, folks.
no,
Not
why
this
this
guy.
person?
Yeah.
I
Not
mean,
this guy. Somebody else.
no, and they even said, let us even
We'll
suggest.
for you.
Okay, you want someone here?
How about so and so?
How about so and so and so and so and so and so? Okay. Now-
And you would find that is the case. You wouldn't be surprised to find that is the case.
Political expediency.
You know?
This guy worked for us. He really campaigned for us in that region. We got a couple of votes. He was on the ground for us. This is kurudisha mkono.
Now, you rudisha mkono at what cost?
At the cost of Kenyans.
Yep.
At the end of the day.
Because this gentleman and the things that surround him right now are going to deal a very serious blow to the people who supported him and backed him. It's going to go back to them. Him, he's already in the pot. He's boiling.
Yeah.
Right?
Skin is falling off.
Yes. But that fire is going to spread. Another pots are already waiting for others to... If you look at the pace at which this whole story has moved, this story isn't moving. It's being moved.
There you go.
Yes.
Speaking of pots that are boiling, so yesterday in Uganda, it's actually a bit humorous. Yesterday in Uganda, Speaker of Parliament Rebecca Kadaga, actually the day before, had summoned First Lady Janet Museveni, who sits in the Education Ministry, obviously over the education curriculum, and she did not show up. So yesterday she was summoned to show up, of course, in Parliament to explain why the rollout of the new curriculum had not taken place. Yesterday, she did not show up, but interestingly enough, in the afternoon, the Speaker of Parliament has now been summoned by the President over her summons of the First Lady. Yes.
What is it? Why are you summoning?
Why are you summoning my wife?
No, the First Lady was not summoned.
Oh, but she was.
No, the Minister for Education.
Okay, sorry. The Minister for Education
It
was
is the
summoned.
holder of that docket.
okay.
Her being the First Lady is secondary.
It's secondary in this case.
Yes.
Okay. So the
But it's just-
Minister
it's
for
being-
Education did not answer
being looked
the
at
summons.
politically.
Okay. And later on, the President of the country then summoned
The
the
Speaker.
Speaker of Parliament over her summons of the Minister of Education, who happens to be his wife and the First Lady of the country.
I'm going to take the view that they're going to solve this problem. That's why the Speaker was summoned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come, I explain to you what's happening.
What is happening?
Let
What
me
is the
tell
problem?
you.
What don't you understand? Education, what is it? Come.
Come.
We can tell you, then you go and tell your
You
friends.
go and tell the Parliament what's really
Go and
going
tell
on.
And
them.
I'll make sure she's at that meeting so she can actually now talk to you and tell you what the issue is.
Yeah.
But don't just be summoning her anyhow.
You can't be doing that.
I mean-
have a story here that I'd like to read out for you because it's written very well. But before we get there, thousands of county staff suffer as pending bills stalemate bites. So we still have this issue. Ukuri Atani, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury, is saying that we still have people who have not been paid. Thousands of employees in the counties denied funds by the Treasury for failing to clear pending bills have not been paid their December and January salaries, prompting go-slows and strike threats. In some devolved units, the workers have not received salaries for 3 months. So County A has pending bills. County A has been instructed by the National Treasury clear these bills. County A has not cleared those bills to the suppliers. County A has been told by the National Treasury, "Aupati pesa." Now
Because?
County A has no money because they have not cleared the bills.
Okay.
You're supposed to have sorted out this issue of, there's that directive. People need to be paid. So people haven't been paid, and this is what's happening. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
All right, fog still pretty low on Mombasa Road. That is affecting traffic because visibility is affected. Of course, asking people to approach with caution and then use your fog lights, folks, because you'll not be able to see very well. Traffic, of course, is backed up towards the JKIA turnoff and all the way down through Mombasa Road to the Nyayo National Stadium. So take it easy. The Thika Road service lane at Delarue has been partly closed on both lanes this morning. So this is why it's affecting traffic. It is of epic proportions this morning. One of the service lanes now bringing to 4 the service lanes that have been closed on Thika Road. So absolutely going to affect how things are moving this morning. Jogo Road coming to town is moving. Of course, getting into the CBD. Of course, we see that fog is actually still very low this morning in the CBD. So that is affecting visibility. Everywhere you look, it seems to be the case. Also on Gong Road as well. So we're dealing with weather affecting traffic this morning. So we'll see what it looks like in a short while as the sun may or may not come out and the fog actually does lift. So that's what we're dealing with in the city this morning. Spice FM KE, let us know what you see. 0719 012 600. Give us a call if there's something we need to spread the news about.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice,
Thank you very much
communications
for
expert,
tuning in to
Pan-Africanist,
Spice FM,
a
broadcasting in
truth
Nairobi on
seeker and
94.4
believer in
Mombasa,
people
97.9,
power, and
102.5 in
Eric
Kisumu, 96.0
Latin,
in
agent
Nakuru,
provocateur,
96.7
the man in the
Eldoret,
chair,
90.9
seasoned
in
journalist,
Nyeri,
news hound, a man
97.7
who
in
believes
Malindi.
in
The
punching up,
Situation Room, Kenya's
not
biggest
down.
conversation, live streams every morning on www.spicefm.co.ke, as well as on our social media handles, Spice FM KE on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel, Spice FM KE. Well, before we go into the top story that we wanted to discuss in this hour, there's this story that is quite intriguing on page 5 of The Nation. The judge was sitting on the terrace of Kisumu's Aqua Pool Bar on the second floor of Acacia Premier Hotel, watching the sunset as he waited for the murder suspect. From here, and there is a panoramic view of the Lake Victoria below, he could see the plane carrying the suspect as it approached the airport from Nairobi. Now the judge could be in trouble for cavorting with the murder suspect in an intriguing case that might shed light on the rot in the judiciary. The suspect had reached out to him, hoping to get some advice, just in case she was caught or if the police implicated her. But the judge was in Kisumu attending a workshop, according to documents left at the hotel where he was booked in. Investigations indicate that the judge not only paid for the suspect's ticket to Kisumu using M-Pesa, but he also kept speaking to her as she boarded the flight on the day that he sent his driver to pick her up and take her to the airport. "Good morning. Driver left 5 minutes ago. He's coming for you." "Okay, love," she replied. "Pack mosquito repellent if you have," the judge wrote in another SMS. "Done," she replied. After several minutes, she wrote, "Hi, driver has picked." At the Wilson Airport, the suspect once again sent an SMS to the judge, telling him that she was boarding the aircraft.
Vioja Makamani. Carry on, Eric.
"Did you get medicated or shall I pick something en route once landed? We are boarding now." He wrote, "I have a cough syrup and lozenges. There is no steam bath here."
Sorry.
"Hi, Han, I've checked in, and now the long wait to boarding." "See you soon," replied the judge, attaching a kiss and the classic love-hurt emojis used as expressions of love. The Nation has not ascertained whether the two were in any relationship, but we have evidence that the two had dalliance in business. There are no records at the hotel to suggest that the suspect booked a separate room, and there is no evidence either that she left the hotel on that day. That evening at the aqua pool, the two ordered a whole tilapia and one catch of the day. It was delivered to room 405. There's evidence that the two were still together in the room the next day, and about 4:30 p.m. she ordered a blueberry cake, only for the afternoon to be disrupted by a call from the police in Nairobi, who wanted her to report to Kilimani urgently. The judge, using his mobile phone and M-Pesa account, booked a ticket for the suspect, and she flew out of Kisumu the following day. In Nairobi, the suspect scanned copies of the media coverage and story links and sent them to the judge before she went to record a statement with the police the next day.
Okay. Is this a novel that is it an excerpt from a novel that someone is writing?
Boone.
I just need to understand this one here.
This is actually a story. Intriguing tale of a judge and a murder suspect.
Story as in book story or real story
life.
it actually happened?
Real story that happened in Kisumu. This is not on those fiction columns. It's on page 5.
So it's
news item.
Essentially, it's from Kisumu with love.
Yes.
Literally.
From Kisumu with love.
Literally.
Yes.
And then it turns out she's a murder suspect. My goodness. And he's a judge.
So, she is female, he is male. Murder, judge, secondary issues.
Yes. Maybe he didn't know.
Of course, maybe he didn't know.
Eric, that you've tried.
He's very rich, Eric.
You've really
He's
tried.
Or even if he did, if they had a relationship before.
Okay, maybe he didn't know that she was a murder suspect. Okay.
By the way, suspect.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but remember, names are not mentioned.
No.
So now this one, this way, you're allowed to speculate as much as you like.
And you actually go as far as you
Please
want.
let your imagination
Run
do its
wild,
thing.
wild.
Let it take off. Let it run. Huh?
Cough syrup and lozenges because there's no steam bath.
Hun, did you get mosquito repellent? Uh-huh.
You know something?
If somebody is telling you that you need something like mosquito repellent and they don't know who you are, Omo, far stretch.
They know one another.
Come on. They know who they are.
But so far, there is no crime committed here.
None.
I don't even think the optics may appear. He happens to be a judge.
She happens to be a murder suspect.
Yes. Does it? And the case is not before him.
No.
Yes. So does it therefore mean that
would be interesting though if it was, eh?
Yes.
If the case was before him.
If it is, that's a different matter. But does it therefore mean? Remember, he's an officer of the court. He's a lawyer. He understands the law. It stands to reason that if you were to seek advice and you have a case pending in court, it would be good to talk to a judge if you knew one, because it's good to understand the perspective of the bench. Yes, it would be a good step. Someone who would understand how to look at this thing and figure, how do we go about managing this situation?
And throw some nuggets of wisdom in your direction, generally, of course.
It's quite. Look, if let's start from the very beginning. Let's assume that these two people have a relationship, right? They're in a relationship. And then you happen to be having some trouble with the law enforcement agencies. Who are you going to turn to for advice?
Of course not.
Same person, right? You can't say, oh, no, because you're a judge, I can't tell you. No. I mean, is that what is supposed to happen to a judge?
You can offer advice even as a judge.
Because at this point, even when she went back to Nairobi, apparently, allegedly, she recorded a statement and then she sent a copy of that statement to the judge. This is what the police have recorded. Peruse, add or remove what is necessary and return. The judge received the copy. He then sent the copy to the suspect, who took the copy back to the police station. But police did not delete the previous copy and filed the two reports, the last without an official signature. So, you see, he's still advising her. What's wrong?
I don't see anything wrong at that particular point.
Maybe it's because you're a judge, you should be saying.
Yeah,
no,
but what they're imputing, the implication here, that's what is a bit damning. Because if you go to a judge, remember, whatever case she has, if it's a murder, it will go before a judge, not a magistrate. Am I right? No? It will go before a magistrate as well.
Yeah.
But remember, that is another officer of the court. It is easier for a judge to talk to a fellow judge. That is what is being implied here. And a judge would have, whatever a judge suggests or the discussion they have with another court officer is bound to have more weight than if, say, a lawyer, unless it's a special lawyer who has more weight than is perhaps visible to the naked eye.
Perhaps even in this case, just the fact that a judge is advising a suspect on how to record a statement, on how to conduct themselves.
That's what the eyebrows are up about.
No, let's remove the suspect issue and talk about a judge advising a friend.
Who happens to be a murder suspect?
Who happens to be, yes, now, because if you know a judge, you know this person, but they happen to be a judge, and you have a case or you have a legal issue, you'll ask their advice.
Of course you will.
But that's where the judge should, maybe that's the point where the judge should tell you, look, for this one, I cannot.
Yes, but couldn't he?
I recuse myself from our friendship.
No.
Well, in this case, it was a little bit more of a friendship, but okay.
It's called a friendship. If you want to attach tails and whiskers to it, that's up to you, but it is a friendship.
Friendship with powerful meaning.
Oh, yes.
However, you see, it also seems to imply that we are now beginning to bring our judicial services to question. And I'm saying there really is nothing to question, if you ask me. Well, I'm saying there's nothing to question. Up until this point and what you've read, is there any law that has been broken? Is there any breach of perhaps good ethical conduct that has been breached? From a lay perspective, I don't see.
Of course, they wouldn't stand on any kind of leg in legal if anyone was going to ask questions, because it just happened to be that, yes, as you said, a friend, they were hanging out with each other, doing whatever. Those are not the details that we're looking for. But in this case, they were not connected legally in any way, shape or form. Of course, it would come up that are there, who does he know? And are there pieces of information that he could be sharing with her? That's what's going to come out because of speculation. People are going to ask questions about possibilities. That is what will come out. But in terms of how they were interacting with each other, it's not really a problem, really. But of course, by virtue of the fact that he is a judge, she is a murder suspect, of course, people are going to start looking for, or even if it comes to the fore, connections then would be looked for. Is there information that is being shared that shouldn't be? That kind of thing. That's what would come out.
If a judge, if the wife of a judge is accused of murder, what should a judge do? Leave the home?
No. Accused, remember?
Yeah.
Accused. No. He offers all the support that are within his means to her.
As a husband or as a judge?
Well, he's a husband.
As a husband.
He happens to be a judge.
There you go. So then where would you draw the line? Of course, then people would ask, people, look, it would come out. And even if it then went into a court, you would find that the prosecution or whatever would use that and say, look at what we're dealing with at this point. This is somebody who could provide her with vital information, provide her team with vital information that, you're crossing over into some slippery slope there whereby you say, okay, it's possible that information could be shared by virtue of whom he knows or whom he has connections with. can't leave that out as a possibility.
Well, of course, what is clear is that this nation's story is indicating that you'd like to shed some more light into the judiciary. While judges, like Caesar's wife, must be above suspicion, pure and honest, our investigations reveal that the conduct of a single judge could deal a huge blow to the judiciary and erode the public trust in the institution. That is exactly what they are raising. It's 13 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Shortly, let's take a look at the latest statistics on Kenya's HIV/AIDS war. Good morning.
$18 degrees. It's a warm morning, but fog very low in Nairobi today. Mostly cloudy conditions going to experience parts of the morning with highs of 27 and lows of 17. In Nakuru at 16 degrees, partly cloudy conditions through the day. Also experiencing low fog as well with highs of 28 and lows of 14. It's 15 degrees in Nyeri with rain expected later, highs of 26 and lows of 15. Partly cloudy conditions in Malindi today with highs of 32 and lows of 26. It's warm in Mombasa at 27 degrees, highs of 32 and lows of 26. In Eldoret, it's clear skies, sunny conditions at 14 degrees. Partly cloudy conditions to follow later with highs of 26 and lows of 14. In Kisumu, partly cloudy conditions and a chance of rain later with highs of 31 and lows of 20. Further afield, in Kampala at 21 degrees, rain expected later with highs of 29 and lows of 23. In Johannesburg, 17 degrees, highs of 27 with rain expected later. And finally in Dar es Salaam at 26 degrees, partly cloudy conditions with highs of 33 and lows of 26.
The 90s have never sounded so good.
Favorite songs of the 1990s.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
16 after 7. Good morning, and how are you doing? This is
Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
We are live.
Spice up yourself.
MKE, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, as well as www.spicefm.co.uk.
Right, so most recently, there are twice, for what we've seen coming out of reports concerning HIV and AIDS in the country, there are twice as many women living with HIV compared to men, a report has revealed. Of course, we know that HIV prevalence in women aged between 20 and 34 is nearly 3 times more compared to men in a similar age bracket. The grim numbers that we see are contained in the recently released 2018 Kenya population-based HIV impact assessment report by the National AIDS and STI Control Program. We also see that experts say that culture often dictates infection trends. And according to the report, HIV prevalence in the general population stands at 6.6% in women and 3.1% in males. Of course, this is a reduction from what we saw at the beginning of the scourge of this disease. But when the numbers are broken down into 20 to 24 in terms of age in groups, the prevalence is 5 times in the female population at 3.4% compared to 0.6% in males. And of course, this is while the general prevalence stands at 2% for this age group. The numbers that we've been given: 1.3 million adults in Kenya living with HIV. 4.9% of adults aged 15 to 64 years are living with HIV. 139,000 children living with the disease, and 0.7% is the number of children aged 0 to 14 that are living with HIV. 6.6% of the population of those infected are female and 3.1% are male. We see this going through many of the counties, many of the regions in this country where HIV is still an issue. Of course, it has reduced from pandemic levels and still now going to the point whereby it's managerial levels. Of course, this is a disease that has been heavily funded in Kenya. There's a lot of work that has been put in when it has come to research and understanding and general public knowledge and information that has been spread. And for some time, it seemed like it was the forgotten disease, where it took Kenya by storm, and then the numbers kind of faded out over time. And here we are now back talking about the fact that, a lot of people have kind of forgotten about it and said in terms of its prevalence, it's not so serious. But I'm saying at this point, it's still a serious matter, whereby we've seen even from this report that more women are being infected with HIV, as many more men are putting off testing, either for fear that they don't want to be, live with the reality that they could have this disease, or just don't find that it's important anymore. More women are concerned about pregnancy than they are about HIV. And more women are using, of course, sex as a tool to get quite a number of things. In this case, it cannot be that it is a forgotten disease. More attention still needs to be paid on this front. Of course, aside from the research that has been done, we see reduction of funding that has been that would come from external donors, because of the fact that it has been managed very well. It was managed over the last 10 to 15 years quite well, and of course this can be attributed to the funding that came into the country. But at this point, what I'm saying is that it cannot be forgotten. It cannot be that people feel, okay, well, in terms of infections, the numbers have reduced. We don't see quite the case that we did, even 10 years ago. It cannot be forgotten, and people still have to be vigilant as far as this disease is concerned, because if we play around with it, the danger of us getting back to where we were previously is still very much alive.
The thing that you must bear in mind when you talk about prevalence, for people to actually be tested, they have to volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, women, by virtue of the fact that they are the members of society who bear children, so their care-seeking behavior will differ from men. They'll go to hospital when they're expectant. Mm-hmm. And part of the things that happen when you go to hospital, they will test your blood. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily for HIV, just to test your well-being. Mm-hmm. And because of this, it is the likelihood of women getting to know their status will be much higher than men. We're not even talking about the reluctance that men have to even just visit health facilities. Mm-hmm. No. Secondly, when you talk about prevalence, you're talking about people who are known to be HIV and who are alive. People die. Mm-hmm. And death can also reduce prevalence. Meaning, if you're looking for the numbers, two things. People can die, that'll reduce the prevalence. Mm. People may not test. Again, the prevalence will be low. People may test. So, for a very, very long time, in the early days when HIV was being tested, the 2080 figure that is touted in commercial circles, business circles, economic circles, what would happen was you'd find that probably only 20% of the people of this country had gone for testing. So the results that you'd be given were of the 20%. Mm. Now, over time, it's been inversed. So a larger percentage of people have been tested. But remember, over a period of, say, 20 years, what it means is a child who was born will now be 20 years old. A child who was 5, and so forth and so forth. So there's an entire group of people who were never tested 20 years prior, who are eligible for testing now. So when you talk about the age brackets, and those who are 20 then would be 40 now. Now, because of the advances in ARVs, antiretrovirals, or the antiretroviral therapy, you will find that people live longer. But as you live longer with the virus in you. And yes,
taking that into consideration and just looking at, other reports that have come out, interestingly enough, just about 2 weeks ago, and just looking at, interesting enough, this age bracket that you speak of, who was 20 years younger when this was actually seen to be quite the thing that captured people's attention, is that there is the belief, call it naive, but there is the belief among the population that HIV is not a disease that is still so serious that needs to be dealt with. And so when asked, interestingly enough, both men and women between the ages of 18 and 30 felt that there was no need to get tested because they didn't feel that people were infected. So it was not necessary then for them to protect themselves when it came to HIV, because they don't feel, or from their knowledge and understanding, they are not aware that HIV is still a big story. Believe it or not, people don't feel that there are still that many infections or that there are people living with HIV. So it's not a big deal anymore as it was
Across
10 years
all
ago.
age brackets or just
Between the
younger?
ages of 18 and 30.
Okay.
Between the ages of 18 and 30 now, it's when you're talking to them about HIV, it's like you're talking about the bubonic plague, something that happened centuries ago and is not an issue today. Right? So yeah, it is that it could be something that has been forgotten, that people, because we saw people dying, CT. We saw people dying at huge rates. But we don't see that anymore, of course, because we know that it can be managed and people are on medication. You could look at somebody and they're on medication for life, and the last thing on your mind would be that they are living with HIV or that they have AIDS. It has not been the top of subject matter for so long. Of course, this could be pointed to the fact that funding for this disease was top notch. We can't deny that. And so it was managed very, very well. But here we are 20 years later with people in a very volatile age bracket who believe that it's not an issue. It's not a thing. So they don't need to be protected. So then why be tested over something that's not so prevalent?
What is also trickier, what is mentioned in this report as some of the causes of that high prevalence among women, they say sexual activity between younger women and older men. Remember, if you have a bracket of people who have not tested or who have tested but will not tell you they have tested, and who, by all accounts, look well. See, optics are very important here.
Yeah.
They do not look unwell. Now, if you have a prevalence of these activities, what you then are saying that you are exposing women of a certain age bracket to very, very high risks of possible infection. Now, this is one of the reasons that they give. But if you consider that for the longest time, ignorance played a very, very big role in the spread of HIV. Now, if you have an age group where people believe that this is a thing of the past or it isn't that dangerous, then they will not consider protection as a necessary measure.
At all.
Yes.
At all.
Yes.
But then we also look at this age bracket that you talked about. But interestingly enough, we heard many stories at that time in the 90s, early 2000s, or actually more in the early 2000s, when we look at the financial aspect of it, and you had that quite a number of women were then having unprotected sex for help financially. We had the stories of, people who said, well, the way to store your fish, for example, if you were a fish farmer, the only way to store your fish, exactly, the fish for sex, the storage for sex kind of thing. And of course, it was without protection, right? And there were many, many stories of this. In this case, you then have many young women, yes, who are then engaged in sexual activity with older men for the same finances that we're looking for. But of course, we've come to the different sponsored kind of living that we're talking about now. A totally different kind of living, but attached to the same source of finances at the end of the day. So that is still a common thread that still happens until today,
really
without the acknowledgement that the disease can still get to you.
What is really tricky is not even the sex that younger women are supposed to have with older men, but it is the variety of partners that people tend to have. It isn't as though the reference here is to them having sex with one person. For all you know, they may have multiple partners. It's this network that actually causes problems. This has been established and it's known. These networks cause very serious problems. Because all you require is one individual in that network, one, to be HIV positive, and the likelihood of that network, that entire network being affected and infected is really, really, really vast. And for the longest time, this is something that formed part of the education when people were being educated about not just prevalence, but infections, the rates, how they can, and transmission. With time, some of these things have been forgotten, and the messaging that took center stage in those early days have also been forgotten. Now,
Have been forgotten, absolutely.
yes, they have.
Yeah.
One of the things that WHO has been grappling with in the last few years is re-emerging illnesses. Diseases that had been assumed to have gone and had been forgotten. They are re-emerging.
Exactly.
And it's causing a problem. STIs that in the West were considered, a thing of the past, have re-emerged. we have a problem right now. And for a long time, diseases like, if you're talking about pneumonia, if you're talking about even measles, any disease, a lot of it was associated with HIV, and with good reason, because of what the virus does to your immune system. But that notwithstanding, the problems of HIV are far from over. Far, far from over. But of significance, since the funding began, the US has spent slightly in excess of 700 billion shillings in this exercise. If you take that money alone and look at just the money, and you look at what HIV can treatment means, or what it meant and what it still does, it's not just antiretrovirals. No. It also caters for medication for any opportunistic disease that may come your way. So because of this funding, our health facilities received a very huge boost. And for the longest time, HIV and AIDS funding actually helped with other diseases that manifested itself in any normal hospital setting. Now, we also know that with time, this funding has been cut significantly, and for obvious reasons. If when at the beginning, at the advent, it was an epidemic, this was something that required some very strong action. 20 years down the line, you cannot then argue it still requires the same action. No. The approach needs to be different, and the emphasis also needs to be different. But the unfortunate thing is, the guarantee that the messaging that was being taught then, and which was supposed to ensure that the disease is actually brought to a halt, unfortunately, when there's a let-up on it, what you then have is a reemergence of the same problem. But now, this one, it's not only, it's refueled, all right? It has acquired new status. You know why? You're talking of people who've been on treatment. So you don't really know their status by the optics. This is what people go by. And people are supposed to volunteer and inform you of their status. They will not. So here you have a situation where the main mode of transmission of HIV is sex. You can't control it. You can't actually monitor it. You can't determine how often it's being had or where it's. The indeterminate options about this activity are so many that unless the individuals internalize the information and determine to look after their own health, you have a very uphill task in trying to contain it.
So it sounds like public awareness is a very critical part.
It's absolutely, and continuous public awareness.
It's always been. This is one disease that actually
but why
had
do
to
we
use
still
public
see
assurance.
such? When you talk about people in the age brackets of 25 and above, those are people who have been exposed to messaging on HIV and AIDS.
They have been exposed to messaging of HIV and AIDS. They haven't witnessed the ravaging outcomes of HIV and AIDS, because they were born when they were young. Is when they couldn't fully understand it. Is when the ravages were on. As they've grown up, they've heard of ARVs. They've seen people well. They hear people out. You see, this is odd.
And the
destigmatization. That's the thing. The destigmatization, which is a good thing, has also contributed to the problem.
Because you don't want to show the negative side of HIV.
Or yes, people don't really mind that it's a big thing, so you get careless, to put it mildly.
Yes. I think that's the thing. We've gotten careless and thought that it's no longer an issue, but now we see that clearly it is an issue.
The big one. Let's take a look at traffic and then we'll continue the conversation. We're looking at, of course, the report that was released yesterday on the prevalence of HIV/AIDS in the country. Good morning. 29 minutes to 8 o'clock.
All right, take a skip over to Juja Road and what's going on there. Juja Road and then towards Outer Ring, we had some issues there. Of course, it's moving slowly, but it's moving all the same. Cops are doing a good job there of controlling traffic. Mombasa Road, all the way as far back as the Way Bridge now. Traffic moving very slowly, getting yourselves then to the turn-off to the JKIA and then further down. Of course, we still have the fog situation, so everything is going a little bit slower than before. All right, looking at other parts of the city. Schools are closed, but there's still traffic on Thika Road, and that's the complaint. As far back as Safari Park Hotel, getting yourself down to the Pangani underpass and then into the city is slower than you would like, of course. But this is what is affecting traffic now. Gong Road, of course, then leading to the City Mortuary roundabout, and getting yourself down towards Valley Road or Awings Quebec, not so bad, moving very quickly at this point in time. We'll take a look at Langata Road in a short while. But everything apart from what we see seems to be ordinary Friday morning traffic musings. Spice FMKE on Twitter is how you can reach us. Let us know what you see. Give us a call, and we'll try to highlight it so that you can either avoid or exercise patience.
Spice up your life.
So a report released yesterday on the fight against HIV in Kenya is showing
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
36,000 new HIV infections among Kenya.
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Such a huge percentage of drop. 4.9%, the share of adults aged between 16 and 64 living with HIV, down from 5.6% in 2012 and 7.2% in 2007. 1.3 million people living with HIV nationally, up from 1.2 million in 2012. 139,000 children aged between 0 and 14 living with HIV in Kenya, accounting for 0.7% of children in the age group. So although the number of HIV infections is plummeting, the prevalence rate in the key groups is rising, according to this new study. The preliminary Kenya population-based HIV impact assessment 2018 report that was released yesterday points to an aging HIV-positive population, a fact that might call for the government to review the support services given to people living with HIV and AIDS.
Yeah, I mean, review in terms of me probably throw some attention back in that direction, because so much work was done. Of course, there were so many milestones that were crossed over this, what was it, CT 15 to 20 year period, where, you know, a bulk of the work had been done. Public messaging was all over the place. I mean, everywhere you turned, of course, we still remember the ABCs of HIV and AIDS and all of that. Public messaging, the whole antiretroviral, the campaigns, the activism that took place. And then after some time, we saw nothing. Only recently then have we begun to see then again people asking about, you know, getting tested and all of this. But we still see that, you know, there's some cases, and then we hear that people feel that it's a dead disease, that it doesn't exist anymore. And this is, you can't fault them, because as far as their belief, this is their belief, that it doesn't exist. It's dead. They really do believe this, because they have not heard. Whereas you hear nowadays that, you know, somebody within your radius is infected with cancer, for example. That seems to have been the disease that took the day. But in terms of HIV and sexually transmitted infections, kind of went out the window for a lot of people's reality for some time. And this is a dangerous place to be in for something that could spread very quickly and take center stage once again.
Remember that the incubation period for the coronavirus, as we're told, is 2 weeks. Incubation period for the HIV virus is 10 to 15 years. So, you could be infected at the age of 18 and you'll get to understand at 25. You could be infected at the age of 25 and know it at 35. You could be infected at the age of 35 and know it when you're 45. That is where the danger lies. Because remember, people talk about the manifestations and the ravaging effect of the infection without understanding that the infection will be in your system and there'll be no signs whatsoever. And
at that point, you could infect somebody else.
You could very easily infect. And remember that our care-seeking behavior often has to do with how unwell we feel.
You're feeling.
Has this not been the problem with antibiotics? You are told that for this drug to work, you need to take it for 7 days.
Finish the dose.
The truth is, on the third day, you're feeling well. You stop.
You forget.
So you're better. Now, the messaging and understanding that feeling better is not being well.
Well,
it's a message that has never been driven home enough for people to understand. That being sick also has nothing to do with feeling unwell. You may actually be really unwell, but you are functioning normally. By the time you actually start feeling unwell, you're actually heading to the afterworld.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Things are thick.
Things are
Yeah,
thick by the
yes.
time you feel it.
Yes, by the
right?
time you feel it. Now, it's something that people will listen to, hear, but not internalize. For the simple reason that when you're talking about care-seeking behavior, HIV and AIDS, the treatment has been free. See, that's the
Because of the funding.
free. But other care-seeking behavior, the moment there's a cost to it, somebody is going to juxtapose.
Yeah.
Am I feeling unwell enough or should I eat? These are the realities. Are my children go to school or am I going to bother about this headache? Remember, the headache is not the disease, it's a symptom.
It's a symptom of something else.
Yes. Now, so long as there are all these variables that people grapple with on a daily basis, whether it's a re-emerging disease or whether it's HIV, whether it's a coronavirus, they will always pose a very imminent danger to our people, simply because of our poverty levels. Because with poverty also comes a certain mindset.
So if we do see a reoccurrence of this, then there
Not
would be,
if we see.
as we see now with the reoccurrence
You're
of
seeing that
of
happen in
where-
city.
Yes. Yes, I do.
This report is basically just showing a decline in everything, right?
This report is showing.
You're
a
saying
decline.
this is the last positive report we are about to see.
No. It's not an issue of the positive report. And I'm not saying that the report is inaccurate. Reports will tell you about the study that was done and the area in which it was done and how representative it is of the larger population. And there is an accuracy to it, a certain degree of accuracy. What I am saying is this. There is an alternate reality that you need to consider. And that alternate reality is this. How long have we had this disease with us? And if you look at that length of time, that's why I gave the analogy of somebody who was 5 years at the time when these issues of HIV began will be around 25 now.
now is when they probably get a fuller comprehension of
and
what's
keep
going
working on that age bracket. And you realize that there may be an age bracket of people who have heard, in the same way they've heard about malaria, in the same way they've heard about TB. So for them, it's just some other disease. So the attention and the urgency that was paid to the disease that time is not the same urgency with which they'll approach it. That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying with that attitude, the likelihood of it re-emerging as a serious problem is the likelihood is high. That's
Right.
all I'm saying.
This is the danger that is posed because of the fact that it is not regarded with as much seriousness as it was before. And then you can also understand
The part I'm not getting
but
that one is
the population
treating it with the seriousness it deserves.
Yes.
I'm wondering, are you actually saying that we are not giving it the same
Yes,
seriousness?
I am saying that
Yeah,
is precisely what I'm
unfortunately,
saying.
that's
Why?
the
Because we don't have funding.
No, because it doesn't cause death and it doesn't cause disfiguring. People don't look emaciated.
People
They
can live
don't-
with it and you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
Oh, it's not by the government, it's by the population.
Yes,
by
I'm talking about people. It's a threat.
Yeah,
yes.
this is the thing. The attitude that not that the care that the government, but the attitude of the people at this point. It is a forgotten disease, and that's just something that we have to really
It's
take
not a
into
death sentence
consideration.
anymore.
It's a forgotten disease because we can be in company, and nobody would know who was HIV positive or not. And that's the thing. Previously, we saw the pictures and we got the understanding that this is something that would kill you and make you look like a skeleton within a very short period of time. That is not the case. You have somebody who is plump and happy and could be living with HIV, and you would never know. You would never know. So we're in the company of this disease, but having forgotten it because the face of it is not as ugly as it used to be before. And then you have people, understand, we talked about that age bracket of 18 to 30, who were children at the point where this thing was at its worst. Okay? So they have come up in a different reality that, okay, there's no need for me to get tested because the people who are suffering from it are much less. If has it even shown up before? It's not something that they're grappling with as a reality
It's
anymore.
like blood pressure. or
And it is a very
diabetes.
dangerous.
Ngoja wazee.
Yeah. And it's a very dangerous attitude. It's a very dangerous place to be in, especially for something that has not changed in the makeup of the disease, in the way in which one can be infected. It has not changed. It's still the same thing.
You know, if you remember, we're discussing education in the West yesterday and how it is free. Now, the flip side of that is it's then taken for granted. People don't bother. The people who see the importance of it are probably the immigrants, for whom education was very expensive.
Yeah, and then they come
And
here
then and it's available. Man, they are going to study. Now, you give that time, you suddenly find you have an emerging population of people who came in as immigrants, they're getting to be more educated than your own population. So they can claim better jobs. Suddenly, you have a situation on your hands. And it's a reality. This isn't a theory. You only need to look at the immigration of the population from Latin America into America. The work ethos, the immigration of the Asian community into Europe, the work ethos. These are people who are willing to work and...
They'll do anything.
It doesn't matter. They will do things you don't want to do. You give it 10 years, they'll be ahead of you. If you went to South Africa before this xenophobia broke out and you looked at the way, for instance, the people who would immigrate in that country, the way they conducted their business, it was very different from the way the local South African does. A Kenyan in South Africa is going to open that shop of his at 5 and it'll stay open until even midnight.
Yes.
The local will open a shop at 8, go for lunch,
Close
come
while
back.
at lunch.
Yes, it's closed.
Yes,
and then
yes.
go for lunch, come back, open, close probably at 5. The Kenyan, that shop will be a supermarket. Though it's a small place. He'll have everything. In short, the work ethic is completely different. Yes. Now, if you give it time, that person will automatically do better than you economically.
Yeah.
Now, it's the same logic with the issue of the disease. There are people who saw the devastating effects that it had. Family members dying, the breadwinner of the family, they saw it. There's a generation who you might as well be telling them about the immigration of their community from whichever part of Africa they came from. It's that remote.
It's that remote. Or you'd rather be telling them about something they read in a history book.
It's that remote.
They don't connect.
They don't connect at all.
No. And if it's a disease, well, yeah, it's a disease, but there are other diseases also.
People are not dying. In fact, we've seen
And
that
you won't
numbers have
die.
gone-
The
you
truth
won't
is
die.
you won't die. And if you get tested quietly, you can be on ARVs quietly, you will be alive.
So what should be done to ensure that everybody then does not relieve their foot off the pedal?
You know, that's why you have a health service. Our health service abrogated its functions to the funders. Remember, we're discussing blood. Long before PEPFAR came into being, we had a government department that dealt with ensuring there was sufficient blood should it be needed in the country. It's always been there. The blood bank service, it has always been there. Come in PEPFAR, augmenting the service. They sit back, relax, let PEPFAR do the work of the money of PEPFAR. Suddenly PEPFAR cuts their funding and suddenly we have a crisis.
We don't know what.
The crisis is actually not the blood. The crisis occurred when our people stopped doing their work. What we're now complaining
What
about...
work? But PEPFAR was funding you, but you are the people who are doing the work.
No.
Unless you're talking about what? The policymakers?
No. The augmentation is the same thing with our healthcare services. The fact that PEPFAR came in with HIV funding doesn't mean that they have given our health services a break from doing what they're supposed to do. That's what I'm saying. If we were the blood, whatever services, wouldn't we be better off if we have an oversupply of what we need? But we didn't. We relied on this which was being funded. And we didn't do whatever else we used to do before outside the funding.
And even when they said that we're going to be leaving in the next 5 years, now, year one, start to collect on your own. Start to now put in policy that is going to help you to make sure that you have adequate supply year in, year out. Year 4 said the same thing. Year 3 said it again. Year 2 repeated it. Year 1, we're leaving, folks. You need to make sure that this thing is in place. It wasn't done. I think that same kind of thing. If we're going to leave it, of course, if we're talking about public information, then that needs to be shared within this same ministry. Then it looks pretty bad. It looks pretty dim. But we cannot continue to rely on foreign funding, for example, for something that is the possibility of it wiping out again more numbers of a population is very, very high.
You know, people keep arguing that our population increased. Of course it did. When your population increases, it also means your taxpayers also increase. Okay? So that argument out of the window doesn't really hold water. We had a functioning Ministry of Health. Without PEPFAR, there was no HIV, there was nothing. We were supported. And there were plans, and people were told, this is what we're going, and they were told into the future, completely ignored. The crisis comes in because whatever mandate that particular ministry was given, they simply didn't carry it out. And
Or maybe they were doing it.
No, they were
with
not.
the help of the funding. Look, I'm looking at it from we were doing this much, and then PEPFAR comes, and now we are
They were
doing
not.
this much.
Eric, they gave up those functions. This is a field I worked in. And I'm telling you, the attitude was, every time you discuss something is, do you guys have more money?
Yeah, is there money?
Yeah. God Almighty. Yes.
Do you have money?
They took it that help was supposed to be permanent.
It's everlasting.
And then it graduated to, it was their right.
12 minutes to 8 o'clock. Good morning. This is the situation.
...24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Spice up your life.
And of course, it has supplemented a lot of what our health ministry was doing and what the government is doing in terms of financing the health department, and now that funding is being cut back.
It has been cut significantly.
It has been cut quite,
significantly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now that impact that it's going to have, of course, on the health programs, like now this particular one, in particular case of HIV and awareness creation with the entire population, we still have the same people. They're still employed. Are we saying that, because of the funding, we are not...
No, people have lost jobs. Let's just start there.
All right.
Whether you're talking about NASCOP, National AIDS Control
Council, yeah.
or whatever it is.
We're now not able to support...
There are certain things that they were able to do that they were not able to do simply because that funding was cut. Mm-hmm. And we had been told, if the government took that if they took in that information and acted upon it, they would have found ways and means of ensuring that the services continued with their own money. But these services went away. The moment funding was cut, services were also cut.
And this is the tragedy
and
of
these
all
are essential
this.
services, by the way.
Yeah. This is the tragedy of all this, because there's certain things that could have been done in terms of replication that at that time didn't necessarily need money to do. Yeah. There were certain models that then could have been set up at the time where that funding was coming in, so that you kind of just pick up with it as you go along and apply certain, even if it was minimal amounts of funding to it, so that at the end of a period where the transition has taken place, you have something that is standing that can then be used. Right now, do you know that we have private organizations that are the ones who are dealing with messages of go get yourself tested and make sure you're in good stead.
But they're the ones
this
who've
is
done
what
it for
we
the
have.
longest time.
They're the ones who've always done it,
By
and we
the
still
way,
have them, and we still have them sorting this out.
The functions of the National AIDS Control Council, right, or the National AIDS and STI Control Program, what they do, it's not a secret. These are government employees.
Yeah.
Right. This is a department of government. And the programs within this particular department are defined. It's clear. And most of them are preventative. So it's not a role that somebody's making up. There's a need for it. So just like you find money to do all sorts of crazy things, you can find money to pay these people so that they carry out the work that they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to understand how rolling back the time on this one has disastrous effects, there's something that's happening in the West. Something very bizarre. Anti-Semitism has taken on a new face. It started off as some racial discrimination against immigrants. It has grown. If you look at, say, some of the shootings or some of the crimes that were in America, they focus on people who are either black or brown. Okay? Right now, Germany, anti-Semitism has taken on, it's worrying. This week alone, 7 people were shot. They died. In a town where you couldn't say that there were people who are anti-Semitic. No. But it's reared its head. And for many people, it is a shock. You know why?
Yeah, because it was something that
they
thought had been forgotten or left behind.
Yeah, precisely.
Exactly.
They thought this was a thing of the past. We had gone through this. We have learnt our lessons.
We will not go there again.
No, we are one nice...
happy family.
Yes.
So saying now there's a new generation that's romanticizing this whole thing of...
They're acting on it, not just romanticizing. You remember that this person in France, whose name I never tried to pronounce, I just spelled it. That one. Okay? The platform on which that party thrives is racial.
Yep.
That's it. And do you know what is strange? It has traction. It has a large following. The following isn't reducing, it's increasing. So what does it tell you? This is what I'm saying. People forgot that this was a message you needed to continue putting forth. And they figured, we've forgotten it. A generation comes up
who doesn't
who can't
understand,
really relate
who don't
to
relate
this.
to that at all.
So they simply go back to factory settings of their grandfathers or great grandfathers. That's
So
what
what
they've done.
takes them there?
It's that's something that it comes with you. You must
What?
understand.
It's in their DNA.
Well, look, you must
come on, no.
But you must understand that when look, if you look at the messaging of HIV, the messaging of HIV was to change behavior. It was behavioral change.
Yeah.
Behavioral change that then would then result in either you knowing your status, not infecting someone else, or protecting that status that you have. And that was it. Changing your mindset. Now, if you go back to that means that there was a mindset that was in place in the first place that people naturally were inclined to go along with.
Yes.
And this is the thing.
Spearheaded by many factors, like, now if people
But what are
start
people?
living
But look at what people are doing in this day and age right now. What's happening? Naturally inclined to go along, have sex with whomever, not necessarily think about protection, not necessarily think about who or how many partners this individual may have had before. Is that not what we had previously? It is. People were having sex with whomever came along, without necessarily wondering whether this person was infected with something or not. And that is what we have today. In fact, it is even more because people are going even further and saying, because I am looking for money, especially from the case of young women, because I am looking for money and this person has an abundance of it, I am not going to think about what other partners they have. I am not going to think about their history, mindset.
which
it's in
means
the
that
mind.
the BCC failed.
It
at
did
some point.
No, at that. But you must understand, the generation that we're dealing with at this point were not they're not really.
But they're the ones that went through. They have been brought up with this communication in mind. They have actually been brought up with understanding HIV and what you need to do to avoid HIV.
They're 35 years old now.
Yes.
They were 15, 10 at that time.
Yes.
Right?
Which means that they were old enough at that point when the communication campaign started. They were old enough to start understanding it.
But the
So they
campaign
were
did not
brought
target
up-
them. The campaign at that point did not target that age group. Unfortunately, when you look at the basics of that campaign, it didn't target them. This campaign targeted adults from 25 to 60. Check it out and we can see. It didn't target them because, of course, there was the understanding that they were not sexually active at that time. You must also realize that 20 years ago, the age bracket of people who were sexually active was much higher. We have people now 20 years on sexually active at a much younger age than they were previously.
And now,
so that
in the
messaging was not for them.
at that point.
Exactly.
Over the last 10 years, they've now been classified in those key populations.
But there was no mess in the last 10 years. There has not been any vibrant messaging like there was when HIV was introduced.
No, it has been targeting them.
No,
Hasn't it?
there hasn't.
We've had a lot of campaigns, talking like NASCOP has been running campaigns on youth. The key populations, youth, persons living with, the people who have, what are they called, MSMs.
Eric, if you look at the messaging, how does one messaging differ from the other really? Is it really
in the
audience and
packaging.
target specific? No. What Ndu is saying is actually very true. Remember, if you have a message about sex, what you should do about it, the way that same message will be received by a 15-year-old, the way it will be received by a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old would be different. Same message. And how they'll act upon that message is also different.
Yes.
Remember, you're talking about a disease. And I took us back to how we understand disease and how we respond to diseases. If I'm not feeling unwell, I am not sick. That is how we normally respond to disease. If I feel unwell and I start feeling better, then I am cured. You're actually not cured. Now, ARVs, if we just put aside the discussion on whether people take ARVs or not, there is the issue of people not continuing with the regimen that is required. Then you know what you do? People develop resistance. Now that's a completely new problem altogether, but an even more serious one. There was the push for the 90-90-90, all right? So that you ensure that at least, just to begin with, 90% of the population have actually been tested. 90 of them have their viral load suppressed. 90 of them are actually on treatment. It was then pushed to 95, 95, 95, all right? But remember, as I told you, with every age, with every year, a new generation of people come into that age bracket where they can now be tested because they've reached adult status.
Yeah.
Okay? Without fail, there are always new entrants. Without fail. Now, you give it a 5-year gap, it's a very large number of people. To understand it, just consider how many people finish standard 8 and then how many people finish Form 4. That will give you a clear indication of the numbers that enter this particular. Now, are we saying that the messaging has been adequate for these numbers? Are we saying the messaging has been in schools? Yes, they have been in schools. But the focus and the intensity that was given went away. a while back.
And
So it's
that's
not the
evident.
same.
Of course not. It's not the same. And of
The
course, you have
Judicial
very
campaign of a
right,
couple
but you
of
have
years
very
back.
many factors. You have very many factors that kind of tinker with all of this as well. The information that people have, right? How are they translating that information? Of course, with new media now, with all kinds of things like social media, with different kind of messages coming in that are going to tinker with the effect that a solid messaging would essentially have. So many factors coming into play. Now, does the messaging need to change over time to take all of these things into consideration? Absolutely. Has it? It has not, unfortunately. And that's why I'm saying we're essentially sitting on something that could be a time bomb if we don't deal with it at this point. Again, with people having the same idea in their head that this is a forgotten disease, then I can get away with any kind of behavior that I have because this is something that affected people 15 years ago and doesn't infect with the same measure than it would today.
Even more interesting, Eric, it's considered to be somebody else's problem. Not the Ministry of Health. These funders and their money, it's theirs to deal with.
It is Americans.
Yes. So now when the MOH is asked to deal with it, they're wondering why you're giving them someone else's problem.
Work.
Right.
Yes.
Keep it right here. The conversation continues on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter. In the next hour, we'll be talking about the coronavirus. Joining us in the studio is government spokesman Colonel Cyrus Oguna. We'll also be talking to some students who are in Wuhan, China. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
All right, Juja Road, quite open today and then slows down right around the Pangani Junction and there's bumper-to-bumper traffic there, but then getting into the CBD is not so bad today. Zero traffic on Langata Road this morning. Of course, equation to schools being closed, no traffic on Langata Road, not so bad at all. Situation on Ngong Road, just near the mall, slowly moving if you're heading to town, then slows down right around Langata, around the cemetery, and there's a little bit of jam there. The bumps on Thika Road, making people slow down, but apart from that, is not much of an issue. Mombasa Road, it's not clear, unfortunately. Fog still causing a bit of problems on the earlier part of the road, but then onto the Greater Mombasa Road, not so bad. It is a Friday morning, things not as crazy as we had anticipated. Let's see what it looks like in about an hour or so. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Give us a call on 0719 012 600. But for now, everything looks really good.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth,
Well, it's
Kenyan by
2.5
choice,
minutes past 6 o'clock.
communications
Good morning,
expert,
Nigerians. Thank you very much for
Pan-Africanist,
tuning in
a
to
truth
Spice
seeker
FM,
and believer in
broadcasting
people
Nairobi,
power,
94.4
and
in Mombasa
Eric
on
Latin,
102.8,
agent
87.9
provocateur,
on
the
2.5
man in the
Kisumu,
chair, seasoned
96.4 in
journalist,
Nakuru,
news hound,
96.7
a man
Eldoret,
who believes in
90.9
punching
Nyeri,
up, not
Malindi,
down.
97.7.
This
For
is
the
the
next 1 hour, let's talk
Situation Room,
about the
the
coronavirus
only way
and,
to
what
start.
the government of Kenya is doing to address the coronavirus. First of all, we know that there are some Kenyans who are in China. Some of those, their families have actually been down on the streets of Nairobi saying we'd like the government to facilitate the expatriation of those people from that country to be brought back home. And now we saw yesterday the government spokesman had a press conference in which he said, well, not for now. That government spokesman is in the studio. Thank you very much for coming. Colonel Cyrus Aguna, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's always a pleasure to having you here. And of course, now let's get straight into it. So you say that it's not the best thing to evacuate people from Wuhan, the city that's on lockdown, where the coronavirus is actually ravaging and killing people on a daily basis.
I think that is a misrepresentation of the reality on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at statistics, the situation is actually stabilizing. The level of infection and even deaths are kind of coming down. So the situation is much, much better now than it was before. But having said that, perhaps it may also be important for the viewers to appreciate the fact that as a government, we have put in place elaborate measures to ensure that this virus is not imported into the country. So even as we're talking about our students and other Kenyans in China, we must also appreciate that back at home here, we have put in place elaborate measures that in case, in an unlikely event that there's a positive case, we'll be able to deal with that case.
Let's actually first of all talk about what you're doing here. Then we can talk about what's happening in China and the Kenyans who are stuck in China. So what is it that the government has done to ensure that we do not import this virus into the country?
There's a lot of measures that have been put in place. And you recall, anybody coming into the country must pass through some entry point. Mm-hmm. And this entry point would be the airport or the border points, the seaports. All these areas, and in total we have 34 of them across, length and breadth of this country, and we have deployed teams to be able to screen anyone who is entering into the country from any of those points, and in the event that any of them has shown some signs that he or she may have some kind of fever, then again we have other facilities to be able to undertake, further elaborate tests, to determine whether that person meets the case criteria for, that coronavirus. So there are elaborate measures in place.
Colonel Oguna, is it possible to tell us where these steps are stationed and what the details are and how it is that in the unlikely event, our worst case scenario becomes a reality, what we would actually do? Let's say, for instance, someone was coming from Tanzania. What would we do? And someone tests positive, or at least has the indications that they may be infected with the virus.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Now, there are two facilities here that are related. The first facility is having a quarantine facility. Okay. Mm-hmm. And quarantine facility is essentially intended for those that have traveled from China, not necessarily from Wuhan, but from China, or anybody who shows signs of having fever, but not confirmed to be suffering from coronavirus. Mm-hmm. Now that person would be quarantined. And we have got quarantine facilities. We have got facility at Kenyatta National Hospital. We've got facilities in other hospitals in town here that have been trained and prepared to have a facility like that in the event that we have somebody who tests, who shows signs, just to quarantine. But remember, this virus has got a 14-day incubation period. So as, this person has been quarantined for the next 14 days, it will undertake tests to determine whether he's actually positive or not. Now, in terms of being able to test whether he's positive, we have got primers and, test kits now in this country to be able to undertake tests that we don't have to send samples in any other place out of this country. So all those primers and test kits are available here in the country, right? So in the unlikely event that somebody tests positive for coronavirus, then we have isolation centers or facilities also in the country here that will be able to deal with that.
Where
case.
are they?
We have isolation center in Kenyatta National Hospital. We have isolation centers at Mbagathi Hospital. We have isolation center in Coast General Hospital. We have isolation center in literally every level 5 hospital in this country.
Just describe the quarantine facility. What is it? How does it look like? Where is it? Is it a ward in one of the floors
at
at
quarantine
KNH?
Facility is basically being put away from interaction with others.
Being segregated.
Being segregated. Just quarantine means that this person has not been confirmed to be suffering from this coronavirus infection, right? Just suspected.
So at KNH, is it on a separate block or is it in the same block?
A separate block.
It's in a separate block.
Separate block completely.
What's the capacity of that? How many people can
Right
it
now
hold?
we have got 12 capacity at Kenyatta National Hospital and we've got 120 capacity at Mbagathi Hospital, yes.
Are you confident? Are you comfortable saying that, you said in the unlikely event that this could happen, apart from just quarantining and isolating people, are you confident that the entire process that would have to go through, everything is in place? As the government, for the people?
Every single detail, what would be happening in other part of the world to deal with coronavirus is exactly what we have here. Remember, this protocol has been put forward by the WHO, and they are inspecting this facility to be able to, to be given the confidence that we're able to deal with this. So we have all these facilities like you would get in any country in the world.
Okay,
so we are confident that in the event, let me say, in the unlikely event that anybody coming from China or and I'm using this word very carefully, and the unlikely event, we'll be able to deal with it.
Why do you say unlikely?
Because we have measures in place to ensure that, first of all, let me go back to China. Before somebody boards a plane from China, they are, taken through a very stringent screening, process. In the event that one person is found to be suffering from coronavirus, he will not board the plane.
Yeah.
And that is standing procedure, right? So therefore, we can have the little bit of confidence that whoever boards the plane has been screened and be found not to be showing signs of coronavirus. But because this virus takes 14 days incubation period, even for us, we don't want to just sit back and accept that yes, because this person has been tested in China and therefore everything is okay. So when he gets here, also test again, because within the course of that flight, anything can happen. Yeah. So when he comes here and he tests, he shows signs that like would be having fever and stuff like that, then we isolate that. We don't isolate, we quarantine that person. All right. But in the process of quarantine, we also do further testing. In the unlikely event that one person tests positive, then he will be removed from the quarantine and becomes isolated, where now treatment for the disease will now be undertaken.
Spoken to people who have traveled from China, and so yes, what you've said is what they've also said. When before they leave China, of course, there's that screening, and there's a form that they fill, and then when they arrive at JKIA, it's the same kind of screening also happens. But here, they are given a form that's asking about Ebola. When did you last visit? And this has happened last week.
When did you last visit West Africa?
When did you last visit the DRC and West Africa? Asking about Ebola. And then there is that screening.
That form is old, Chief.
And they're let to go. So that is one of the feedback, of course, on the ground. The second thing is, in other countries that we see people arriving from China, they are immediately put into quarantine. 14-day quarantine. It doesn't matter whether you have showed fever or not. You go straight into quarantine. Why aren't we doing the same here?
We are basically looking at see in China there are two, provinces that are known to be, epicenter of this coronavirus. This is Hubei and Wuhan. So anybody coming from those two provinces, definitely when they come here, they will be quarantined. And what we are doing here is that if they do not show signs of any fever or stuff like that, then we ask them to self-quarantine. And we get their numbers and be able to follow them. All right?
But I could tell you anything, Colonel. I could tell you anything. You could give me a call. And are you at home? Self-quarantine? You want me to be at home for 14 days, for example? I could tell you anything. I have things to do, yeah?
this is a question of you're dealing with, serious health matters.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that is why, we don't expect anybody to be lying about this, because how does it help you to lie? Ultimately, it's your health that is also at risk. So the more honest you become, the better it is for you to be given, assistance. So I don't think anybody would go out there and lie when he's called about his or her condition. That you are feeling unwell, but you're saying you're feeling well.
Oh no, but you have people who are feeling well. This is the thing. I mean,
Yes.
the people who you're asking them to self-quarantine, right? And these are people who are feeling, okay, I'm fine. So if somebody's going to call me and say, I hope you're at home, we've asked you to self-quarantine, and I have things to do and there's nothing wrong with me, why would I tell you that I'm at home?
And that's what you're saying, that within that 14 days, we expect that you, when you're at home and you feel a bit unwell and you're called, then you have to be able to, own up and say that, yes, I have this kind of cough that started yesterday, and then you'll be advised based on where you are, and that where you can be able to go to be assisted.
Why not quarantine them from the very beginning?
It is not necessarily realistic to quarantine everybody coming. It doesn't
we don't have the facilities. Is that the case?
It is unrealistic, honestly, that anybody who comes, how many people come through our airport?
Many.
We're
Yes.
talking about 1 million.
Yes.
Are you going to quarantine 1 million people? Even
No,
in the US, it doesn't happen.
Are you going to call 1 million people? You're not going to call 1 million people.
Precisely, but what you're saying is that those who are coming from China, or who have been in China in the last couple of weeks,
Yes.
since this situation started, then those are the people that we follow up. But I also try to believe that it doesn't happen like you're saying in most countries of the world. So realistically, that we will be able to ask anybody who is coming from any of those regions in China to be able to self-quarantine, and unless they show signs, then we are going to quarantine them ourselves.
All right, let's go now into China itself, Wuhan, the city which is on lockdown. We have, you said yesterday in your press conference, we have got around 100 Kenyans were there. How many students and how many non-students?
There are 91 students and 9 non-students.
9 non-students.
So basically you're talking about 100.
So all of them are there, and of course they are under lockdown, and some of them have expressed willingness to come home. Their families back here are saying, please help bring these people back home, just like we've seen other countries going to get their people, their nationalities, and getting them out of China. Why is it that the Kenya government does not want to take this route?
We are every day in constant contact and communication with the embassy of China here. We are in constant communication with our mission in Beijing, who are in constant communication with the situation on the ground, including the children or pupils in the ground, right? And therefore, the issue of evacuation, getting the children out of Wuhan to Kenya here, is an issue that we're looking at. We're looking at the situation, the way it is evolving. And as it is now, the situation is stabilizing. And therefore, even though that evacuation issue is still on the table, but we consistently keep on monitoring the situation, and the decision will be made based on advice that we get from our mission.
Why wait for that? Why monitor for a long time? Other countries, immediately they saw that, they took the decision to get the people out.
Yeah, but you see, the decision that you make, when any country makes it based on their country's national interest. It is in their interest to do that. In our case, we are looking at it based on our interest. We're not going to take action because another country B or country A has done so. Either we are assessing the situation, and on the basis of that assessment, then we come up with a decision. But we are not competing with the country that country A has done this or country B must do this. In any case, realistically, the countries that have had these infections in their countries are countries that have actually evacuated their people from China. And therefore, realistically, and if you look at this thing objectively, then you come to realize that, because the levels of infection are going down, and the fact that, this city is under quarantine, the situation there would be much, much better in terms of managing and dealing with it.
Is this a collective government? Is this a collective appreciation of the situation? We had the Kenyan ambassador to China, Sarah Sarem, saying that if it were up to her, she would have brought these people home.
If you listen to what she was saying, 3 days ago on YouTube, she was basically saying that things are okay. Yes, things are not really okay, but they're much, much improved. They're much better, and she's actually in constant communication with the students in Wuhan. and that they are being given the provision that they need. So they are not necessarily in a very, very dire situation like the media wants to paint this picture.
The provisions that you speak of, if we may ask, what measures has the government taken to ensure that their well-being is actually looked after?
Thank you for that question. That question, actually, I know where it is heading to, and let me just perhaps unpack it.
Thank you.
There are two Kenyans who are expectant in China.
Yes.
And among the concerns that have come through is that they are not being attended to. They are not being able to get. Medical services or medical attention, and the Kenya government through the embassy, the mission in Beijing, has been able to secure, medical services, medical attention to these Kenyans, those two ladies that were expectant and were attended to, and they're much, much better. They are actually in no harm at all as at now. And I'm saying this because, a couple of days back, I think on Sunday, somebody did mention that, these ladies have not had any medical attention whatsoever. And that was not necessarily true, because the medical personnel that was sent to them actually sent 2-3 days before that statement was made. You understand? And therefore, as a wise government would not want any Kenyan to stay out there and be put and find herself or himself in a situation that is that dire, where his or her life is under serious threat. So we are in constant communication. We know every Kenyan where he or she is staying and the condition that they are in, as it is now. So even though, Wuhan is on lockdown, that nobody is coming, nothing is going in, nothing is coming out, but realistically, the government of China that has got, foreign missions in every, province is actually in constant communication with all students, not just Kenyan students. All students from other parts of the world. All international students. Yeah.
There was mention of a certain amount in the media again. 1.3 million, I think, was the figure.
We mentioned 1.3 million.
Yes.
We did mention about also $5,000.
Yes. From the Chinese
from the Chinese government. What we did not mention that has already been processed and forwarded to them is 10 million shillings by the Kenya government. 1.3 that we did talk about, that my brother here did call me about yesterday. And of course, I'm sure I understand why he was calling me, because there are those who may feel that the Kenya government just giving out 1.3 million.
It's 13,000
bob. 13,000 shillings. How much can that do in China? And those kind of concerns. This 1.3 million was actually money, even though it's government money, but given by the embassy, the mission in Beijing. Yes. You understand? The Kenya government has released 10 million shillings to the same students in Wuhan, in addition to the $5,000 that the Chinese government has given. But the Chinese government, of course, we are not looking at what that is based on goodwill, all right? But it is our priority ourselves to take care of our students when they're out there, and that 10 million is actually on the way to them.
All right, so we have in the studio Cyrus Zuguna. He's the government spokesman. Of course, we're talking about the coronavirus and the plight of Kenyans who are in China, especially those in Wuhan. Let's take a look at the weather and then come back out of that break. We'll be talking to some of those students who are in China. One of them is Mkalambari. He is a third-year student pursuing a master's degree. And we'll also be talking to one of the two ladies that Colonel Oguna has mentioned, one of them who is expectant. Her name is Olivia Nyeri. We'll be talking to her shortly. Keep it right here. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
We're going to experience mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi today, currently at 19 degrees with highs of 27 and lows of 17. In Nakuru, 17 degrees, highs of 28, partly cloudy conditions, 18 degrees in Nyeri. In the afternoon, we'll see some rain with highs of 26 and lows of 16. It's 27 degrees in Malindi with highs of 32 and lows of 27. Partly cloudy conditions in Mombasa, 28 degrees, experiencing highs of 32 today. It's 16 degrees degrees in Eldoret, partly cloudy conditions with highs of 27 and lows of 14. Partly cloudy conditions to be experienced in Kisumu, currently at 21 degrees with highs of 31 and lows of 20. Further afield in East Africa, Kampala, 22 degrees, mostly sunny conditions, rain expected later with highs of 29 and lows of 22. In Dar es Salaam, hazy conditions this morning, partly cloudy conditions later with highs of 33 and lows of 26. And finally in Johannesburg at 18 degrees, rain expected through most of the weekend with highs of 27 and lows of 17.
Conversation continues. Let's cross over now to Wuhan in China, where we're joined by
mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Third-year student at Wuhan, also a student leader for the students in Wuhan.
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Mkala, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon to you. I mean, I know it's afternoon to you, but here it's morning in Kenya. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm good.
Well, thank you very much for joining us in the Situation Room. This is Eric Latif. We have CT Muga Nduoko and the government spokesman, Colonel Cyrus Aguna. So first of all, Mkala, tell us about your college. How many students are in your university where you are?
Yeah, in my college we are about 25.
25 Kenyan students.
Yeah.
And all of you are staying in the university's accommodation, hostels?
Yes. But only one who is staying outside.
Okay. And you're also, of course, the student leader for the students in Wuhan. So how many students in total are you in communication with, in constant communication with?
Oh, around 91, all of them.
All right. So when this situation was declared, and of course you were told that you are under quarantine and all of you are not supposed to be moving up and down, how has it been like? Are you basically required not to move out of your hostel at all?
Yeah, for my institute here, we are not allowed to go outside the compound, but you can go maybe outside, you go to the kitchen and cook and come back. But other universities, they are not completely allowed to go outside in their hostel. They are only staying indoors.
Right.
And there are those who are living now outside.
Yep.
And also, we are not allowed to go out completely.
So how do those ones access their food and stuff when they need to buy their supplies? Oh, something has happened. We've lost him. I think we're gonna try and call him back. That is Mkala Mbadi from university in Wuhan, China. We're gonna try and reach him again. So basically, he's saying that since then they're not allowed to get out of their compound, and those that are living outside campus are not allowed to get out of their apartment blocks. Of course, that brings in the issue of when they need supplies, what do they do about that? When they need to buy food, where do they access their food? Of course, those ones in university, like he's saying, they're accessing the kitchen and cooking and then coming out. But others that we've spoken to are saying when we require to, replenish our supplies, we have to really be careful because we have to listen out to the communication that's coming out from the leadership on the ground. Because of language barrier, we don't know when they're calling out for food. So when we get out, we find, all right, people already come out of their apartment, they've picked their food rations, they've gone in, and we're finding maybe food is finished. So these are some of the challenges that they have. Okay, Mkala is back. Mkala, hi.
Hello.
Sorry, we lost you. So you were describing for us the situation there for the students who are in campus and those that are outside campus. Just give us a description of how they are getting by on a daily basis.
Yeah, now, for example, in my East here, our school is trying to provide for us some supplies. But to get them the supplies is difficult because of the lockdown, as you know, as for now. So we are trying to survive with the small portion they are getting. We are sharing. That is for my university. Now, if you go outside rather schools, not all schools are being provided these provisions, you know. Now, we have also those who have their families are living outside. No, they don't have those provisions.
So what are
and
they?
Because of the lockdown, they cannot. Pardon?
Yes.
Go ahead. Because of the lockdown?
Okay. Yeah, because of the lockdown,
Yep.
there's no transport, you know, there's no access to medical care. So we are not allowed to go outside to maybe to the city to buy for this stuff. And if you go to the markets, all the markets have been closed as for now.
Okay.
So where do you get your food
Yeah,
from?
and maybe
Where do you get your where do you get your provisions from?
as for now, our school is trying to provide for us in my institute.
Okay. So for you who's in school, your university is able to provide for you. Those ones who are living outside campus, they're the ones who have to find other means of getting their provisions.
Yeah, sure. But also here in our school, they're getting the small because it's difficult to get all the supplies because all the shops have been closed. And the demand is high because everyone wants to buy.
Everybody
You
will need
understand?
something, right?
Yeah, maybe. Excuse me, Madam Landa. If I could ask you, how many universities there have got supermarket within university compounds?
All the supermarkets around the universities have been closed.
So your none is open as of now.
Yeah.
And is there a time when you've been in communication with the mission in Beijing?
With the?
Have you been in communication
Yeah,
with the mission?
With the embassy, the Kenyan embassy.
Yeah, we talked. Yeah, we talked with Madam Ambassador Sarah Serem. She was in our group. I asked her for the provision, but we did not provide for any supplies. We have not received any supplies from the embassy.
But have you been able to receive any money?
For the money, we thank the government. We received the 1,000 RMB. That is good. They have tried so much and they have given us the money. But now it becomes a challenge where those who are living out, because now here life is so expensive, it cannot cut out for everything. But I'm happy Mheshimiwa has explained it well that the government has provided an additional of 10 M from the government.
So even if you have the money,
only 1%.
Do you have an environment that you can be able to use that money even when you have it?
We can buy online, but it's so expensive because once you buy, they have double the prices, and the delivery fee will charge 300 yuan. So that roughly makes when you buy the stuff is so expensive for us.
Just do that for us. Do the math for us. 300 now. What comes to what in Kenya shillings for the delivery?
That is around that is 4,500.
4,500 for the delivery of this food, for example, of the supplies.
Wait. No, wait.
What's the rate that you're exchanging with?
Madam Mulandi, what is the exchange rate?
I'm doing it.
What is the exchange rate?
What rate are you exchanging?
He's working on it.
I'm not doing it. Yeah, that's 4,500 shillings.
All right.
So 4,500 shillings for the delivery of whatever supplies it is that you have bought online.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can say that the 1,000 RMB that you received is about equivalent to the 13,000 shillings that the mission in Beijing initially sent to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And you would have to use close to half of that amount for whatever it needs to be delivered to you to be delivered.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Now, Mkala, you are also the student leader, so of course you are talking on behalf of the very many other students who are living in Wuhan. Tell us, of course we understand that there are two ladies who are expectant and have been having issues. Do you know how their status is? Have they been receiving any assistance?
Yeah. Yeah, as for now, last week we talked with the embassy, and personally I talked with Madam Serena. I asked her questions in our group, and she confirmed that she has tried every means to get access to them, maybe to provide for them medical care, and as it was not possible.
Okay.
So they haven't received any medical care?
And
this was as of last week? Or?
No, they have not. Yeah, and even up to now, they have not received any medical care from the embassy.
Have they been able to get any medical attention, irrespective of whether it came from the embassy or from any other quarter?
I personally tried to get some medicine from my friend from Shanghai to deliver to one of the ladies in Wuhan. And he was able to be given some packets of medicine, around 3, which were delivered yesterday.
But this is something that you did. This is something that then you were able to coordinate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with my friends from Shanghai.
Okay.
Have you talked to any of the two ladies
Then
in the last 24 hours?
The other lady, she did not receive anything from the embassy completely.
No, maybe not just receiving from the embassy. It's that, has she been able to be given any medical assistance?
Medical assistance?
Yes, of any kind.
No, even money, no, she has not been given.
Not just money, but perhaps somebody visiting them? I mean, a doctor of some kind?
No doctor complete. Because Madam tried, and Madam Serem tried his effort. Every wrote letters to Minister of Foreign Affairs. He tried to get access of the nurse. The nurse could not be reachable.
When is the last time you spoke to any of these two ladies?
Yesterday. Yeah.
You spoke to both of them?
Yeah.
And they confirmed that they have not received this kind of care at all?
Yeah.
Because the information that we have, Mr. Mlanda, is that they have been given medical attention. So can you just double check to ensure that the information that you're giving is not, representation of the actual fact on the ground?
Yeah, I can check it.
All right, I think we're also going to try and call one of the two ladies to hear their side of the story. But just moving away from those particular ladies and talking about the other students and those that are, the kind of assistance that you're receiving from the government, there are many that have been pushing this agenda that they'd like to be brought home. Would you like to be evacuated, Mkala?
Yeah, of course. The government has given us a priority. We can come home. It's fine for that.
It's fine, but
the government spokesman is here, so I want you to tell him why you
why you want to come home.
Yeah.
What is the main reason? Yeah, okay, fine. The thing is this: would you feel other than just coming to visit your parents, but do you think the situation is that bad that may actually call for evacuation? Or not because others have done that?
Yeah. I'm getting you.
Yeah, what I'm asking is that is the situation that dire that in your own assessment, it may be important to evacuate, not because 2 or 3, 4 other countries have evacuated, and not because maybe you want to come and visit your parents back at home, but that the situation is really, really bad.
Yeah, as for now, I'm concerned with those students who right now are outside here and those from different universities. If the challenges they're facing is tough for them, it's better the government to act now to help them. You understand?
How many are they?
In number, I cannot say here in total, but if I gather the data, I can just give it to you.
Yeah, so maybe out your own, assessment and based on the, the information that you have, how many universities, do not provide for their students?
Universities, I have to also consult all the classes because we do the class reps from different universities, and they comprise, some of them have matched the students because some they are few, some they are living alone, and they maybe find one is in one university alone, you see. So I have to get all the universities list.
But you're in all one communication group?
Yeah.
So all the 91, including the High Commissioner?
The High Commissioner said, no, she will not be added in our group.
But then how do you communicate? But is there anybody from the High Commission or the embassy or the mission that is in your group?
We were communicating with Madam Sudan in our leadership group.
Okay. The leadership group. Okay.
The GC group. Yeah, GC group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mkala, I want to thank you very much for joining us today and giving us the plight of that. And I think it's important that you get the numbers, because you're the student leader. Then it will be important if you want to advocate for evacuation. Then it will be important that you actually have the numbers and say this number of people are in dire need of evacuation.
Maybe just before he goes.
Yeah.
Would he know if there are any Kenyans who may not really want to be evacuated?
Yes, that too.
Okay. Yeah.
No, Mkala, he's asking you, do you know of any Kenyan students there who have expressed a desire to stay, not to be evacuated?
No, I've not heard anyone saying no, he's not willing to come back home.
Okay.
All right, Mkala, thank you very much and have a good day and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mkala.
I'll have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, about the 10 million Mheshimiwa said it was added on top.
Yes.
Yeah, is that 10 million given to the students or?
Hello, Mkala.
How is it going to be? How is it going to be distributed?
In the same way that the other 1.3 million was distributed. The same way. Yes.
So it will be divided among the 100.
Among the 100, actually, the.
So we should.
Hello.
Hello. So we should expect another bunch.
It will get to you. It is meant for you.
Okay.
Yes, not you as Mkala on your own, but all the
all of the students.
So all of the Kenyan students in Wuhan.
So thank you very much, Mkala. We'll keep in touch, of course, and let us know when you receive that, so we can give an update as well, and have a government spokesman know that the money has arrived.
Okay.
Have a good day. It's 20 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is a situation. Let's take a look at traffic, and then we continue the conversation.
All right, it's a Good Friday today. Things not so bad on the roads. Right now we're looking at what's going on Mombasa Road. Not so bad. Looking good on Outer Ring, Kariobangi area. Our Wings Kodek is slow but moving towards town in and outbound. Of course, on Ngong Road, not so bad either. I guess that's the phrase. Not so bad this Friday. On Kangunda Road, excellent traffic situation. Getting into the city centre using Jogo Road today also will not be too much of a headache. Sections of the busy southern bypass at Langata NHC flyover will be closed for 2 days to facilitate repairs. So that's going to affect things over this weekend and likely to spill over into Monday. So you might want to plan next week's travel from today. Juja Road looking very good, but slows down at the Pangani Junction, but will open up when you get into the CBD. So around Nairobi, not looking so bad at all today. Good traffic vibes. Hope you can keep it through the weekend and into next week, where things are likely to open up once again. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. We'll have a look in about an hour what's going on, but for now, enjoy it.
.1 Spice FM. Kisi.
It's a Situation Room with Colonel Cyrus.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Access the basic supplies. Of course, because markets and supermarkets and shops are closed, then it becomes a bit difficult to be able to source for this. It's a good thing that the government has thought of assisting them financially. And it's a good thing that, when you hear that the ambassador is in constant communication with their leadership, then they sort of feel that the government has not abandoned them. But now, how much more assistance do they require, and how urgently is assistance required?
Actually, the government is seized, of the situation in Wuhan. We are completely aware about what's happening in Wuhan. And the embassy or the mission in Beijing is working very close with the Chinese government. So the situation that is being painted, based on what we have from the mission, is not that bad. And even though there's lockdown in Wuhan, they have a way by which the Chinese, government is actually delivering. And you've seen, several essentials being delivered to Wuhan. And therefore, that lockdown, the way it is that it is just not for everybody to move in and out of Wuhan, but the government is in communication with their, regional governments in Wuhan so that they deliver essentials that are now given to this, because they have a list of every student wherever they are. Because one of the things that would happen when you get to China is that you register with the university. Okay. And also you also register where you stay. Right.
And so you also register with the embassy.
With the embassy.
With the embassy as well.
That's the hope, of course. Kind of what would it take for an evacuation to take place? Where do we need to get to? Because, even now on social media, we're getting questions. That's the question that's being asked. What point do we have to get to for an evacuation to be considered?
The thing is, first of all, we should not be emotional about this. We should be very, very rational even as to think about, what is happening in Wuhan. And indeed, as things stand now, it may just be necessary that, the safest place for the students to be right now is actually Wuhan. If you look at the way the situation is kind of evolving, that is the safest place for, if anybody is thinking rationally and without any emotions into it, the safest place for anybody to be right now, as far as this situation is concerned, is in Wuhan.
Why?
And, because, first of all, if you look at the countries that have been able to register, these infections out of, China, they are countries that have been able to go and get their people from there. And some of them, like we have mentioned, we get these people onto the plane, and all of a sudden, one person infects another.
The others.
So that is a risk that, for those who are thinking logically, you'd rather let them be managed because already the level of infection is going down, and therefore, basically, it would mean that whatever action that the Chinese government is making is actually working. Yes, so that is what we need to be able to support.
Actually, what lends credence to what you're saying, if you look at people who had been stuck on these cruise liners,
Yes,
that was the argument. And that argument has actually borne out that discussion, because there are people who disembarked from these vessels. Some have even died.
it's true.
Because they already had infections. So in a sense, as you're saying, containment or resolution sometimes actually involves not evacuation, but ensuring that people
Wherever
stay put.
you are safe.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's cross back to Wuhan in China. We are now joined by Olivia and Nyeri. Olivia is one of the two ladies who's expected. Hello, Olivia.
Hello.
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 Good morning,
Hello,
Olivia.
Olivia. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Now, Olivia, we were talking to one of your student leaders, Mkala Mbadi, and he's telling us that the two ladies who are in Wuhan, the two Kenyan students who are in Wuhan who are expectant, have not received any kind of assistance, medical assistance. Is this true or not?
Okay. For my case, when I first needed some medication, my first point of contact was the embassy,
Yep.
because we were not allowed to move anywhere. And we tried for close to a week, but no help was coming through, I think, because they tried on their end and nothing was working. So I had to resort back to the school. Now, the school, the best they could do is get in touch with the pharmacies. No pharmacy was picking our calls. And so I had to go out of the school compound and try to get my medication. So when I went to the school, the gate was literally locked and it was manned by armed security men. So I requested, first for you to leave the hostel, you need a gate pass from the school teacher. And so I was lucky enough to get the school pass. I went to the school gate. I'm in a university hospital, so we're basically surrounded by pharmacies, and you'd expect it to be easier for me to get medical attention. But now from the hospital, it's only the emergency section that is open. When I went there, my case was not considered an emergency. And remember, I was diagnosed with anemia.
Yeah.
So I need frequent medical attention. I need medication throughout. So before my meds ran out, I had to call the embassy and tell them, Madam Ambassador, this is my situation. I need this kind of medication. And she tried her best, but no help was coming through. So when I was able to get the pass from the school teacher, I went to the school gate, which was manned by all these security officers. They could not let me go out. I tried to even show them the medication packages to buy it for me from the pharmacy, and they were not willing to even touch it, leave alone take a picture of it.
Wow.
So I had to come back to school, and it took another week for me to be able to get the medication.
And when you got this medication, Olivia, if I can ask you at this point before you go on, when you got this one that you did get, where did it come from?
And that's what I was about to get to.
Okay.
So the teacher was able to get in touch with some of the pharmacies. When I got the medication from the hospital, it cost me about 200 RMB, that's close to 3,000 Kenya shillings. But now the second time when the teacher was able to get in touch with the pharmacy, they told me I would have to pay 508 RMB, that's about 7,500, but plus an additional transportation cost of the same. So that's another 500, but they were willing to reduce it to 300.
Wow.
So in essence, I would have spent close to 5 plus about 800 RMB. That's close to 10, 15. So that's close to 90 or something thereabouts.
Yep.
Okay, that much. So it was really crazy that I was getting medication for 1 month for that much amount of money. So I got that kind of medication, and I didn't get all of them. I just decided not to take the iron tablets and the folic acid. I had to let go of some because it was a bit too expensive at the time. And so basically that is my major challenge. So of course, from what Mkala is saying, he was able to reach out to the other lady and she got the medication from Shanghai.
Yeah.
But for me, I think by the time I was getting mine, I needed mine urgently at the time, and so I had to use all means to get them.
It was an emergency case for you at that point.
So Madam, if I could ask, you have not been in, with our mission in Beijing at all, other than when you called. They have not been able to get back in touch with you.
Madam Ambassador called. He does call to check on me. And I asked
But in terms of efforts, medical efforts to have you managed through our mission in Beijing, would you, consider that has happened?
The management, what do you mean?
Like maybe somebody being sent to you to look at you and be able to provide, some kind of,
Care.
Care and stuff like that?
I haven't seen that.
So the most you get is the regular calls from Ambassador Sarah Serem.
Yes, that's the much I have got, and I do appreciate that.
All right. And when it comes to other supplies, of course, now you're saying you live within university campus. How are you able to get your food and the rest of the stuff?
And the school provides for us 2 meals, lunch and dinner. I would call them survivable portions. I would need a little more. And so that's
you would need a little more, right?
Yeah, I need to get more supplies.
Yeah.
But it's almost impossible getting these supplies. It's really hard getting these supplies. The other thing, I've been allergic to most of the food that is being made available for us. So I have to go out of my way and get the supplies. Now, for you to get out, remember I said you need a school permit, a school pass from the school.
Yep.
And how often do you get that? That's also another challenge. So we have a supermarket within the school. And the rules are so stringent. Only 10 people will get in at a time. So one person leaves, one person goes in. So if you go early, the better for you, but there's such a crowd. If you go late, you will not find supplies. The other day, I ran out of water, drinking water. And there's no water in the entire school. We always get like 20 liters of water for 150 Kenya shillings, thereabouts. But right now, 5 liters of water will go for 750. That's 50 RMB.
Whoa.
So if you cannot get basic drinking water, how much more are you supposed to get the other supplies? If you get them, they're either rotten, they're either unavailable.
Have you received the 1,000 RMB that was coming from the mission in Beijing?
Yeah, we did, but now with this money, what are we supposed to do with it? If I can't get water, how am I that I will get other supplies?
Usually you start by being grateful for the little that you've received, and thereafter you say,
No. I'm not despising that, and that's why I keep saying I am really grateful for the communication we have with the embassy, because with that communication, they are able to help us get this money. But now we have the money. So what do I do with this money?
More.
I cannot buy food.
Yes.
No, even if I get more, what am I going to do with it in this scenario?
You need the supply so that you can buy the.
But basically what you're saying is that...
are available.
Hello?
Hello,
basically what you're saying
supplies
that sometimes supplies do run out, and for one to get them, then you have to get out very early in the morning. Is that basically what you're saying, if I got you correct? And they're actually provided for within the university supermarket.
Yes.
And they are expensive.
They are expensive, and then the other thing, we have run out of masks. So even going out for these supplies is also
you need
another.
to put on a mask.
You need to put on a mask. So one, you need to protect yourself, but there's no way to protect yourself. When you go out for the supplies, they have run out. So you have your money, but you cannot be able to access the protective measures. You cannot access the supplies. You cannot access the basic facilities that you would need for yourself.
It's a catch-22
The shop has no
situation.
sanitizers. The shop has no soap for washing their hands. So it really is putting us in a very tight situation on how we are able to take care of ourselves and even protect ourselves from the same virus.
The good news, honestly, is that we have got 91 Kenyan students in Wuhan, and none of them up to now, has tested or has been infected. So there's a lot, to be happy about. The fact that they may be lacking some essentials, but they are all healthy, and they are all not any one of them is infected. And we'd wish that it remains that way.
That's right.
Yes.
Olivia and Nyeri, so the government is saying that for those who are asking to be evacuated, it's best that you stay where you are. Do you agree with that?
Staying in Wuhan, this is the epicenter of the infection, right?
Yes.
And we thank God that we are safe. But being here is putting us at a risk. And so what's the guarantee that none of us will be infected tomorrow? So that is why we are making a request. Can we be taken home where it is safer? Right now, no one is infected. But if we come home, it will be safer for us. It will be safer for us in terms of we're willing to be quarantined for the 14 days plus. If that will allow them to watch over us to confirm if at all we're really infected. But at the moment, we've been indoors for more than 35 days, which is way longer than the incubation period of the virus.
Yeah.
So if at all anyone was infected, we would have known because we're in constant communication with the group members. We're in one group. So we would know if anyone was sick. We have the campus reps who are actually in touch with the students, so no one is infected. If we come home plus the quarantine, then that means we'll still be safe. So being here in the center of the infection exposes us to more risk than if we'd come home where the environment would be safer and would be at less risk of being infected with this virus.
Also, maybe just
let the government spokesman respond to that.
Just a perspective to it. Have you perhaps thought about that? Even as, because I know you are in 14 or so different locations, and as you're all moved together to be transported to the airport, in the event that evacuation is decided upon, have you considered the potential of maybe one person or two in that process of movement, getting infected and maybe in the process infecting all the others?
It is a possibility if no precaution measures are taken. But I am sure if by the time they want to evacuate us, a lot of precautionary measures will be put in place. And so that's why I keep saying if they are interested in evacuating us, then the protective measures will begin from the ground in the preparation process to the point where we are being taken home.
And in your view, this would be what? These measures will, in your view, these measures will entail doing what?
We've been
this
told,
preparation from the ground.
And over how we're supposed to. From the ground, it's basically having the available precautionary measures, have the gloves, have the masks available, have the sanitizers. And if everyone can access that, then I believe that would be good enough.
Well, I'm not a doctor, but there have been others that have been infected having done the same when they're going back to their home countries. Yeah, so really that's something you wish to go through? If you remember, there are many countries that, well, not many, but a few countries that have been able to.
Is that a risk you're willing to take?
Yeah, if it will take me out of this epicenter, then I think I'd be willing to take that risk. Because I'm looking at the percentage of the risk, which is very minimal compared to what I'm in right now. And what the others are actually in.
But if you're to get supplies, and medical, assistance, that supplies is constantly available, and that you, whenever you want, medical, assistance is provided for, would you still consider coming back home?
The assistance is not forthcoming.
I'm saying if it were to start coming in regular.
If things were to change today, Olivia, and you received all your supplies.
And your needs were met.
Your needs were met. You got a doctor who was coming to visit you.
Regularly.
And you're getting all your medication, all your food, and all other supplies that you require. Would you still consider evacuation?
The keyword is if, right?
Yes.
And looking at the prediction that has been given, the statistics show that this infection is likely to come to an end of March, 31st March. That is when the infections are likely to stabilize. So that is 1 month from now, 1 month, actually 40 days from now. So if we're supposed to be in the same situation for the next 40 days, am I willing to stay without supplies for 40 days? Am I willing to take a risk? I don't even have the medication. I think what I have is for the next maybe 15 days.
Right.
Where am I supposed to get the medication? Maybe the first time I was lucky. I don't know how lucky I will be the next time in getting the medication.
Olivia, how many months is your pregnancy?
Am I willing to take this risk? I'm about 7 months.
Okay.
All right.
So am I willing to take the risk for the next 40 days? I don't think so.
Okay.
Point clearly made. Thank you very much, Olivia. Thank you very much for joining us, and we wish you a very good day and all the best to you and the other fellow Kenyans who are in Wuhan.
We'll definitely keep in touch, Olivia, and find out how things are going. I think that's one thing that we need to make clear as well.
Yes.
To keep in touch with you.
It's true.
We really hope the evacuation will be on top of their
agenda. That's what we actually
and honestly in speaking out what is really on the ground, because I think what is being told to the public is not true. And so back home, people have a different perception of what is happening on the ground, but things are not good, things are not easy. It's really hard for us, and we'd rather be out of here.
As soon as possible.
Would appreciate,
Thank you very
much. This will be the key agenda of the government.
Right.
The government is in the studio this morning. The government has heard you directly.
Yeah, especially that government.
Yes.
I've listened to you. I've listened to you. I've heard you, Olivia.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you and have a good day. It's 9:01 o'clock. This is the situation. And we continue with this conversation on the coronavirus and, of course, the impact of the coronavirus and how it's affecting our Kenyan students who are locked up in Wuhan, China. Good morning.
All right, not looking so bad on the roads right around Nairobi. There's an accident, unfortunately, at the Roy Sambu roundabout. Police on the ground controlling traffic. Of course, this now affects what was a better situation on Thika Road. So now that accident will slow things down quite a bit. Okay, on Mombasa Road, much better now, not so much traffic coming out of the Cabanas area and leading down, so that has opened up quite some. Arwings Kodek right in the middle of Hurlingham, slow this morning, but that will open up in a short while, moving a little bit slower than normal. All right, apart from that, everything else seems to be okay. Kangunda Road has opened up now. Juja Road, not much of a problem. Sections of the bypass, the southern bypass, of course, being closed in a couple of days to make for construction to take place, but apart from that, everything else hunky-dory. 0719012600 Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. We'll take a look at about half an hour and see what it looks like, but for now it's all right.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power,
China,
and
especially those
Eric
students who are in
Latin,
Wuhan.
agent
Government
provocateur,
spokesman
the
Colonel
man
Cyrus
in the
Aguna is
chair,
in the studio.
seasoned
We've heard from
journalist,
two of those
newshound,
students
a man
who
who
have
believes in
told us
punching
about,
up,
the kind
not
of
down.
they're going through.
This
of course,
is the
Olivia
Situation
7
Room,
months pregnant.
the
She's
only
saying,
way to start your day.
that I would like to go back home because of the situation I'm going through.
Yes, I heard her, and like what she was painting. The truth of the matter is that yes, there is an element of emotions into this, and I can understand what she is saying. But again, we must also look at this in a more broader context. If you consider how this situation has been evolving, you get the impression that it is now stabilizing. Initially, the prediction of World Health Organization is that this thing was meant to stabilize sometime in March or April. But now, even them, they're looking at it like we already gone past the peak of this, situation. So really, the situation is much, much better than it was at the very beginning, and we're consistently seeing an improvement in the way things are in Wuhan. But the fact that the Chinese government has really been, very supportive of providing, in constant communication with our mission in Beijing, and the mission is also in constant communication with with the students. So what therefore we must find out is that the information that we have in terms of providing medical assistance to them, to go and confirm that
whether this is actually the case.
The case.
Now, the second couple that's also expecting is also on the line now. This is Kevin Tole, who's also in Wuhan. Hello, Kevin.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Welcome to the Situation Room. We have the government spokesman, Colonel Cyrus Aguna, with us.
Okay, wow. Thank you.
Kevin, first of all, poleni sana for everything that's happening to all the students, all the Kenyans in Wuhan. But we understand that your wife is one of the two ladies who are expectant, and she had developed complications as well.
Very true. I confirm on that.
Yeah. So have you received any assistance from the Kenyan embassy in Beijing?
Okay, I'm going to be very honest. The embassy have almost been in communication with us, finding us how we are doing. But I wrote a letter for them to help me. So the embassy tried to remove us actually from Wuhan to get medical assistance because it's tricky for us to go to hospital. Even our school, they were advising us it will not be good for my wife to be taken to hospital because of the exposure of being infected with the virus. And the hospitals right now are really packed with patients. They are overpacked, yes. So that is the current situation that we have right now. And since I'm a family man and we are all students, if I take my wife, if I take my wife to hospital, the university warned me that there is risk of being exposed to the virus. That means now all of us, 3 of us in the family, will have to be quarantined in the hospital, and the risk of getting infected is high.
It's much higher. So what has happened since then?
Since then, it has been very tough for us as a family. It has been very, very tough. I understand the embassy even tried to write a letter for us, not only me, plus Olivia, to be taken out of Wuhan to a city where we can get medical assistance. But Hubei Foreign Affairs advised us that that can't be a good idea at the moment because the whole of China is under lockdown. So they advised it will be better for them to be taken out to Kenya. Yeah. So, and almost every day they are taking our health reports. They are taking our temperatures. So I don't see the reason why the government are so reluctant. They are saying that they are fearing of Kenyans getting to Kenya, and there is no Kenyan student that has been reported of getting sick, and every day there is that record of all Kenyans, their health report.
Yeah.
Kevin,
are being submitted to the university.
Kevin, who is taking these vitals? If I don't know if I missed that, but who is taking the vitals every day?
Okay, now in each, the Chinese are highly organized. They are highly organized. They are, for us to live off campus, because now if you have a family, they don't allow you to live. They don't allow you to live inside the university.
Right.
So we live in an estate where they have arranged communities who help. So they consistently check our fevers every day for the yes, that's what they do. So I'm sure if there was any Kenyan student having fever, they would have reported by now.
Okay.
So at the
and
time that
they report to school, yes.
Kevin, at the time that
Yes,
they are
yes.
taking these vitals, checking your temperature and stuff,
Yes.
this is done by medical staff personnel.
I believe so, because there are people that have never seen them in our estate, because we have the watchmen who do that. So I believe they are the medical staff.
In the event that arrangement is made, even for them to provide you the medication, would it be something that can happen?
Yes, that was also a solution. My wife started developing a diaphragm pain. So we suggested if the tools were brought in our house, still now carrying a scanning machine to where we stay, and most doctors right now, they're really concentrating on the
virus itself,
on the corona. Yes. So for sure, even my school has really helped me. They are always calling me every day consistently to see how we are doing. But they are just honest with me. If you want to go to hospital, be ready to be exposed to the virus. That's what they're telling me. So as a family man, I'm really worried. And
so the information
the national doesn't seem to understand this.
The information from the government, Kevin, is that for especially your wife and Olivia, medical assistance has been dispatched in the form of somebody coming to see you and in the form of medicine being sent to you. Can you confirm this?
So far, I've not received any communication. I've not been. It's the first time that you're telling me, and if that is the case, then I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
If it has happened without your knowledge.
But it's not.
And obviously you've not gone anywhere, so it's not that somebody came to see you and they couldn't find you, right?
No one. Okay, it's only the embassy have been calling me, plus my school, and also the China embassy in our country.
In Nairobi.
They called me in Nairobi, yes, to find out how we are doing.
What about the issues of supplies?
Now, supplies. Personally, I'll talk about my experience. I'm sure other students have their own experience, but as for me, since I'm living off campus, getting food is not easy. We have been struggling. However, there is a lady from Shanghai who heard of our story, and he shipped food from Shanghai all the way to Wuhan, just for us. So getting food here, it has been really challenging for us. So we just trust in God. We live a day at a time. In fact, my worry is not in food, but my worry is for my wife. That is the biggest worry, actually.
And how far along is she?
I think now she's getting to 6 months.
Okay. How is she doing now? Of course, is she still experiencing the pain?
Yeah, she still has the pain every day. So we try to change her sleeping positions. We do a little bit of exercise, and we trust God for a turnaround. Yeah.
Kevin, there are those that are saying evacuation. I've got to ask this question to everyone of you. What is your response to this?
Yes. Now, okay, as much as I understand the fear that the Kenyan government has, but what they're not saying is the virus cannot survive in an environment that is above 20 degrees Celsius. So, in fact, the Chinese authorities are advising us to put our AC on. So, if we are to be evacuated, the best city for us to be taken is Mombasa, because Mombasa has high temperatures, and if they are really fearing if one of us carries the virus, then the best place for us.
But Kevin, the fear is not that virus being passed on to those who are already here. The fear is that that virus being passed on to one of you in flight,
in the process
of being. Have you thought about that?
Of course. That is, from what I can say is, there are so many countries who have taken their people out, and if all of us we get quarantined, we are taken from an aeroplane to Kenya, and then one of us has that. If one of us has that virus, then the protocol of WHO is we need to be quarantined together in one place for at least 14 days. And most students are even willing to do that. There are even parents who are willing even to cut transportation for their children back home.
Yeah, but also just to let you know that some of the countries out of China that have been able to, register, infections are countries that have been able to evacuate their people. And it's something that I'm sure even perhaps you may not be willing to go. Not that they got infected, when they got into the country, but it's because in the process of being evacuated, anything can happen there. And they are from the basis of the experience of others. We are asking, Kenyans that would they really be ready to take that risk?
Okay, I believe so. The countries that did that, they were amongst the earlier people to evacuate their students out of China at that particular time. So there was no lockdown and there was no indication report of their health status. But for us now, it's the 29th day. They are taking our temperatures every day. So if one of us would have been infected at that particular time, maybe 14 days minor today, then there would have been that case already.
The information we have, Kevin, is that none of you up to now, 91 of you, you say 100 Kenyans in Wuhan, none of you is infected, which is the information that is accurate. But what you're saying is that as you move from your house and the others move from their areas of residence to a central collection point, anything can happen in between there. And this is perhaps exactly what happened in the other countries that have been able to evacuate, their personnel or their nationals from China, So even as you think about evacuation, perhaps it is important to think about it more broadly, and more in depth, as opposed to, I understand what you are going through. I understand that you're also receiving calls from back home here, But again, we need to be a bit more objective and rational about this, so that we do not rush into anything that ultimately, may put your life and the life of your family at risk. Yes.
Okay. I appreciate what you're saying. If you want us to be very rational, then why don't you take the pregnant women out of Wuhan? Only 2.
For their safety.
For their safety.
So they can also access better medical care.
According to WHO data, those that have been able to succumb from this infection are those that immune system have kind of been compromised somewhat, and therefore, even for those that are expectant, certainly the immune system may be somewhat not really compromised, but destabilized in a way, and then trying to move them around may even subject to further risk.
They are at higher risk.
At higher risk, and that's something that we must be able to to think about.
But perhaps what Colonel Laguna, you should be doing is also give Kevin and Olivia the assurance. So they haven't received any assistance. Basically, this is the period of prenatal care. They're not receiving that. Kevin's wife is having pains. She's not received any call from a doctor. She's not received any kind of visit. What kind of assurance can you give Kevin now this morning on what's going to happen to them?
First of all, the information that, like I did mention to you earlier on, is that they have been able to receive. And this what I'm getting now is probably not the same as what I had before.
Yeah. Right, from 3 different individuals and who are not in the same place. And
that's why I'm saying that we have to go back and check on this information. Indeed, if they have not, then we'll make arrangement that they must be able to get. Because from what I'm getting that, yes, they can actually be accessed. Yes, they can be accessed. And therefore, you're going to ensure that they are able to get medical attention.
Kevin, we want to thank you very much for joining us today.
Okay, thank you.
And we wish you all the best. Of course, we will keep in touch to find out how you're faring. We'll also make sure that you're constantly in touch also with Colonel Cyrus Oguna, government spokesman.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Have a good one. Your work is cut out for you, Colonel Oguna.
But the good news about this is that this is a multi-agency effort. It's not work for the Minister of Foreign Affairs or the Minister of Health. It's a multi-agency effort. So all of us as government is working together, And therefore, when you go back, of course, you're going to sit down and look at, what steps we need to take.
To me, it points to there are some gaps. And I think let's go into this short break and come back and address those gaps. There are gaps somewhere. When you hear that the ambassador is calling these people individually on a daily basis, that means she's concerned. And it means that if she was able to do something, she'd be doing it.
She would have done it.
There's a reason why the Kenya mission in Beijing is not able to do whatever it's supposed to be doing. So let's look at those gaps when we come back, right? It's 21 minutes after 9 o'clock. This is The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We're talking about the plight of Kenyans in Wuhan, China. In the studio, government spokesman Colonel Cyrus Oguna. Good morning.
Family is where it all happens.
21 degrees in Nairobi, mostly cloudy conditions. We expect a high of 27 and a low of 17 today. In Nakuru at 20 degrees, partly cloudy conditions with a high of 28. In Nyeri at 20 degrees, rain expected later with highs of 24 and lows of 14. In Malindi at 28 degrees, highs of 32 and lows of 27. Mombasa at 29 degrees, partly cloudy conditions with highs of 32. In Eldoret, it's mostly sunny at 19 degrees with highs of 24. Expect a low of 20 today. In Kisumu, 23 degrees currently and mostly sunny conditions. Further afield in Kampala at 22 degrees, rain expected later with highs of 28 and lows of 21. Dar es Salaam at 29 degrees, hazy conditions this morning, highs of 32 and partly cloudy conditions later. It's 20 degrees in Johannesburg, rain expected later with highs of 27 and lows of 17. West Africa in Lagos at 27 degrees, haze through the day with highs of 36 and lows of 26.
Breathing life into the 90s.
Should the Kenyans who are
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Or not? The government has said, of course, that it may not be the best time to evacuate.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
Also from
Spice up yourself.
The government spokesman, view to come down is different. What you understand is that they are receiving a lot of assistance.
Mornings
but
done right.
saying that they haven't received
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Yes, that is what you're saying, and it may be something you're going to check back on because the High Commission in Beijing is in constant communication with them, and the information we have is that they have been provided with medical assistance. The 2 doctors went to visit them. That's what you have to check back and find out, really. Because again, as a government, we are concerned about their well-being in China. Not just the 2 of them, but all the 91 and the other 9 Kenyans. So the 100 of them is actually something that as a government we are concerned about their well-being in China.
Yeah, but why would there be such a communication lapse? Why would you receive information here in Nairobi that those people have been sorted and yet they haven't been sorted?
And that's what I'm saying, that's something they have to check back, because I know that the High Commission is in constant communication with them, and like you just heard them say, also the Chinese embassy here also talked to them. So in terms of communication, there is no gaps.
And all, they're getting that.
They're getting calls every day, but at the end of the day, that's not what they need.
And that's what we have to find out, because they need essentials like they have talked about.
Yep.
You see, and what is coming out is that yes, essentials can actually be delivered to them. If
somebody from Shanghai has sent essentials.
Yes, so that's the issue that we're going to work on and find out really.
The issue here, as I hear it, remember these are Kenyan citizens who are in another country.
Yes,
and you can make all the Kenyan efforts you like, but it has to be done in tandem with that host country.
It's true,
and so there's some communication that you have to clear with that host country. It's not as though we can do what we want, how we want it, at the time we want it.
Sure, but then you have an engine to do that in the embodiment of the foreign mission in China. And that's the tool that you have that can then do this.
Yes, but Kenyan students who are in Wuhan are part of that larger population in Kenya, in China, who have this problem. Their problem is part of that larger problem in China.
It's true.
Okay? So all I'm saying here, there are diplomatic processes that I may not fully understand. And that's why I'm actually leading to a question. I'd like Colonel Loguna to explain these diplomatic issues that one needs to undertake in order to ensure that the things we want to do actually get done.
Yeah, what would be the protocols of dealing in such a situation?
Certainly, yes. Like in any foreign mission, you cannot just fly out into, from Beijing to Wuhan.
I want to go and see my people.
Yes, you want to go and see. Of course, you cannot do that. And there must be communication, and you must be clear to move. And of course, you must also be provided with an aid, because you are in a foreign land. And therefore, even if you have, some provision to protect to them, there must be some clearance that must be. You must seek authorization. So there is protocol that must be adhered to, diplomatic protocol. So whatever it is, City is explaining, whatever City is explaining, indeed there are those diplomatic protocols, but have to be adhered to, and therefore, even if Kenya wants to, communicate to the Chinese government in China, it must go through the Chinese embassy in Nairobi.
That's all fair and good.
If our mission in Beijing wants to communicate with the student, other than telephone communication, any physical contact with the students, even when there is no coronavirus, it has to go through, the government of China.
That's all fair and square, right? Yes. And I hear you what you're saying. Yes, that the mission, of course, cannot just get up and do things independently. It must follow channels.
Yes.
But how long would those channels take? 29 days of people under quarantine. You're speaking to the Kenyans. You're hearing that there is a woman who is expectant. She is undergoing some pain. You don't know what's causing these pains. You don't know the
saying
situation.
That we have heard from her. Right. So what you're going to check back is that yes, because I did mention, the information that we have is that they've been given medical attention. And there's no PR here. We're just talking about what is really
what
factual.
You have, yes.
What is factual. Yes. So we have to go back and find out, is there a miscommunication somewhere? Yes.
Or did they go to the wrong woman?
I don't think so, because we have
information about
where
everybody is.
The two women have
spoken to us today,
and that's what I'm saying, that we have to go and check back, right? Yes.
Now, in terms of course, also provisions. So yes, even if you were to follow diplomatic channels, it wouldn't take so long to really deploy food to the few people who are outside campus.
And that's what I'm saying, that you see, this lockdown was not there initially. It came about after some time.
Yes.
And therefore it is now that they're running out of supplies. They had enough supplies. But again, if you heard what most of them are saying, that yes, they are being given supplies from by their universities.
Yeah.
You understand? So
those in campus.
Those in campus. How many are out of campus? Not so many. You understand? But even if it is one, he or she must get supplies.
There's one with a family.
You see?
An expectant mother and a 3-year-old child.
That lockdown, really, like I did explain, it's not necessarily a lockdown that nobody can go to. Even had them, they can go to supermarket at certain agreed time. You understand? The challenge would be that, do we have enough supplies in the supermarket? So the lockdown does not mean that you are completely 24/7 in the house. The time that is allowed. So what they're saying, that sometimes when the food is available, because of language barrier, they may not know at what time the food is available. So yes, there are times when they can be allowed to go to the supermarket to get supplies. But this lockdown is not completely that you're staying in the house 24/7. So the money that have been given, is money that is supposed to assist them to acquire some of these provisions.
Have you been able to talk to their families back here?
The government...
Because what we are seeing is that the families of the Kenyans who are in Wuhan are basically out at Uhuru Park. We haven't seen any meeting.
They're in the dark.
Yes. They're not in the dark, because the ministry,
and the government.
The government through the Ministry of Health is in communication with them. Perhaps not all of them, but has been in communication with them. So we are not completely in the dark.
What we are saying is, they may have been given information, but from what we hear, the assurances are inadequate. They don't feel assured. Meaning, the communication effort that has been made should be intensified.
Is wanting.
We are going to intensify, but again, look at it this way.
Yes.
Again, we don't want to give an impression like, the situation is that bad. Even if you're dealing with a crisis, the measures must also be consistent with the level of crisis at
True.
the time.
It must be managed.
It must be managed.
Yes.
So I know many people would want that we just go, bang on, every day, like we have just found it talking about HIV and AIDS, like in the earlier days when it was every corner you turn, there is this poster here, there's this poster there. But that's not the kind of situation that we are in, really. So the information we pass out must also be managed, must be, cautious, so that we don't create unnecessary panic in the whole country, because it's not a pandemic as of now.
It is true. You see, what we are referring to here is not the effort that is being made, but if effort is made and it doesn't resonate with those who are receiving it, then it will amount to nothing. What we're saying is communication, we understand, has been made. We're simply saying the families would be overly concerned because of what they hear and understand.
Precisely.
And the only organ of government, the only institution that can actually comfort them is the government.
It's the government.
Yes.
And I agree with you entirely.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying, that the government has been in communication with them through the Ministry of Health.
Have you confirmed that the Ministry of Health have actually done what they say they have done?
Yes. And some of them are even given, using Red Cross to be cancelled, because we know that there are those that are really highly emotionally charged about this, and they're being told that, yes, please, the situation is under control. The government is monitoring every stage, whatever is happening in Wuhan. You understand?
Colonel, do you wonder why people... Well, let me talk about myself. Do you wonder why I'm casting aspersions, why I'm doubtful?
Why I am silent?
Why are you doubtful?
You see, we were doing well until you mentioned the Ministry of Health.
Why? Well,
yes.
Ministry of Health is actually an agency of the government.
It is. It's an agency that raises more questions often than it provides answers. This is the problem. Yes. So when you mention the Ministry of Health providing a solution, my mind goes to a problem, not a solution.
Let me explain why I did mention Ministry of Health. It's because providing psychosocial support
is their job, really. We understand it's their job.
It's their job.
They don't do that job very well, very often.
But again, now that is very what I can say is subjective. In terms of them not doing their job pretty well.
There's evidence. These people are out on the streets.
They are out on the streets.
They are saying they are demanding that their children should be brought home.
We sensationalize these things. The media is...
But if you have addressed their
Colonel, we're actually helping you here.
Honestly, if there was...
We're actually on your side.
In this case, really, I think we're offering a hand of help here.
I agree.
Because without information, you create room for speculation and panic, unfortunately.
Which you are very correct. And I'm also saying that the government, through the Ministry of Health, had reached out to these families, and some of them are being given psychosocial support. Yes. So really, why are you doubting this?
But when we see them reacting the way they are reacting, what does that tell us?
Well, everybody is free to react the way they want.
That they haven't been sufficiently reassured. And I think more effort needs to be made, and that's the point. More effort needs to be made to reassure these families, because if the families back home are comfortable, then the people in China are going to be comfortable.
And the reports that they're comfortable.
Yes.
Then everybody will calm down.
The communication would have done what it's supposed to do.
You see, that is one angle of looking at it. But let me also tell you something. That, what you hear every day is that the government is not ready in terms of dealing with it. So now we're moving because now you have gotten to understand that the government is actually more than ready to deal with it. Now we're looking at these other families. That's part of the whole system of managing this situation. And the government is aware about their existence. The government is aware that they need social support, which is constantly being provided.
Colonel, I actually believe you that communication has been made to the effect that these things are being done. All right? It's this same government that told us that they have the locusts under control. and the impression I get is that they're helping the locusts to move from county to county. Because the rate at which the locusts is moving, you're wondering. So this thing that they said they would do, did we misunderstand them?
Okay. Did we get it wrong?
Did we get it wrong?
We are the ones to...
No, why don't we do this way? Why don't we do this way?
Let's take a short break.
My friend, but before you take that break, why don't we come maybe another time and talk about locusts?
Yes.
I think it's necessary.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Even the information that is being given out. I mean, for example, Connor, we have to be very clear about this. If we were not having this conversation today, government would be very comfortable knowing that medical support had reached some of these people. We talked to 3 different individuals, right, who say something totally different. Had we not had this forum today, you would not have known this information.
This is actually a feedback, kind
exactly.
of.
Yes.
I agree,
exactly.
it's a feedback.
Yes.
You know,
So
but I'm
here
also
you are
saying-
also with this now Ministry of Health and information that they are being given. Okay. We don't even, because information being
Okay, pause,
communication
pause.
is a two-way
All right,
thing.
Derek.
Everybody, pause. Let's take a look at traffic. 25 minutes to 10 o'clock.
All right, things have changed a little bit. Waiaki Way to town is actually quite bad now. There's a serious gridlock for some reason. We don't know exactly why, but getting into the city centre, coming out of Westlands, not so good. Jogo Road is good today. No traffic at the moment. Of course, people are asking questions. What's happening in Kitengela? We'll try and find out, because then getting onto Mombasa Road is not very easy for people coming out of Kitengela right around this time. James Gishuru Road again, Westlands. We see that coming out there, that there is a problem. We'll try to find out what that is. But for now, if you see something, do let us know. Heavy traffic on Gong Road now. It seems that traffic on Gong Road starts after 9 o'clock, but this is what we see now at the Junction Mall, trying to get down towards the city centre. All right. Yes, it seems that one lane on Gong Road is actually blocked, and that is what is causing the traffic. But you can use Riara Road behind the junction, and it connects quite faster to Adams Arcade. So there's an alternative that you can use right now. Apart from that, everything else looks really good. Spice of MKE, if you do find an alternative where people are stuck, do let us know. Make sure we keep people moving this morning.
So the government is in the studio this morning, and they're using this show as a feedback session. We'll open up the phone lines for you to also give Colonel Cyrus Aguna some feedback. 0719
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
JKIA. Safaricom donated 4. Now we have 6. The government has not bought any extras. Then we also know that you've told us we have some quarantine facilities at 12-bed capacity at KNH, 120-bed capacity.
Level 5 hospitals.
At Magathi, and level 5 hospitals countrywide, right?
So.
And that we are prepared to also have some isolation facilities in case we get some positive testing. Then let's go just to the JKIA. People are arriving from China and they're filling out a form of Ebola virus. Now, you tell me that we are prepared.
We are prepared 100%. Let me just explain to the process. First of all, we have got information that is provided in flight. When they are actually on the plane, that once they get out of the plane, they will be subjected to this screening.
To testing,
so,
right?
Not testing. Let me
Screening. Okay.
You see, so they are aware. But as soon as they get out of the plane, there's they get onto the plane in a single queue. So that nobody can be, that the idea of everybody rushing out is no longer there. So as they get out of the queue, they are actually subjected to this screening. And it is managed properly so that nobody can escape that screening.
Okay.
Right? Now, the idea of having forms, it is necessary to have forms as to the, whether they are, written Ebola. Ebola and coronavirus is basically the same group of viruses, right? It's the same group of viruses. You understand? So if the forms are written, it's the same group of virus, the SARS, the MERS, and
one is
and
respiratory, the other one is not.
No, they all tend to have some relation with.
Okay.
They are.
Yes.
All right. It's just that one is in China, the other one is in DRC.
No, I think it'll be a little bit different from that.
But
one form.
But the thing is this, that the forms are actually intended to capture information of the passengers. You understand? And that information is with the government in terms there is need for follow-up. So the procedures at the airport and any other port of entry is basically a stringent procedure that ensures that nobody can be able to escape that. And that makes it, have the confidence that whoever has been cleared is somebody who, we got nothing to worry about him or her, having coronavirus.
Let's go to the phone lines. Zachary
Now,
Nakuru.
before you go to the phone line, there's something you did mention that I also needed to
clarify.
To clarify.
Yes.
You see, the testing kit, and I'm giving this information carefully. The testing kit for this is a very new virus. You understand? Very, very new virus. And globally, maybe one or two companies actually manufacturing the testing kit. And therefore, because everybody wants to arm themselves with this testing kit, you cannot just walk into and buy the numbers that you want. And therefore, the numbers that we are buying, we're buying them through WHO. You understand? And therefore, getting 1,000 or so kits, so we're looking at which are these critical areas that have got these large numbers of passengers passing through, so that those areas are fully, catered for. You understand?
Yeah.
The other areas, we have the normal testing kit for, normal vitals, but critical areas are fully and well manned with this kit for testing for the, this new virus. So yes, in terms of taking care of those very busy entry points, they are well taken care of. Right? I just want people to get that confidence that there is no...
That JKIA and Mombasa International,
Kisumu, all
and
those
Kisumu International and Eldoret
are all taken care of sufficiently well. Yes.
Okay. Zachary Nakuru, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Even though you kept me waiting.
No,
sorry.
We apologize.
We wanted you to hear what Colonel Laguna is saying.
Sure. And he is very eloquent and support him. And for the first time, now through him, let me pass my greetings to our government. And he is a gentleman advisor, actually.
Yes.
He is very eloquent in all areas that he has been, sent to represent the government. Now, I really support what he is saying. And for those of us who are keen and we are, we consume news from all outlets, including international radio stations, I support what he is saying, because now anyone who has gone to China to study is not a nursery school kid, and you understand the seriousness of this issue. And let me tell those families who are saying that their kin must be brought home. Even if they are brought home, they are not going to go direct to their homes. They are going to be quarantined. And I agree with what our government representative said there, because you are safer. In fact, me, I was planning to make arrangements to go to Wuhan.
Why do you want to go to Wuhan, Zachary?
He's going to be safer there.
You are safer when you are there. when I started hearing, look at it this way.
Yeah.
Look at it from this, what our government spokesman is saying, that Wuhan, the whole world is focusing on Wuhan, okay, as far as this issue of the coronavirus is concerned, okay?
Yeah.
And therefore, much seriousness is taken at that place, okay? And you had one of the victims, one of our
Kenyans,
saying that, in fact, the gates are guarded by armed security.
Personally, yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Who is guarding me now, where I am, and I don't know. So I support what that guy is saying, that you are better off, you are safer in your hand than in Nakuru or in
Nakuru. Thank you, Zachary.
Okay.
And we should understand, we should understand the seriousness of this plague, okay? So that we also support the government, okay?
Yep.
And I plan to go there, and thank you guys.
You can't, Zachary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zachary.
You cannot go to Wuhan right now.
Sorry.
Nobody is allowed to get into Wuhan. So let's also hear from Peter, who's calling in from Nairobi. Good morning, Peter.
Hello, Eric. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Eric, I'm saying this. if the first world, the Western world, is seeing it is important to evacuate their people,
Yep.
as we are taking too long, let me tell you, the families want to see their people. This thing is not going to end tomorrow. And then these families, the communication between government and these people on the ground, there seems to be a problem. Me, I'm saying in short,
yes.
If the government wants to see their people home, they will be home. And that is what will convince Kenyans, the families, that
the government cares.
Yes. That's what I'm saying is, let's leave these many stories of this is happening. Let's just get our people back home, just like the first world is doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
The people in Wuhan are not grasshoppers.
They're Kenyans.
Yes, they are people who they are willing to come. Just tell people, for example, I don't see what is so big in giving people those masks. If the government says let everybody be 100 people have masks, they will all have masks and they'll come to Kenya with masks. So
Point made, Peter.
Waiting.
I'd like to ask Peter a question. Peter, do you think that there is any merit in what the government spokesman has said?
Okay, there is some merit, but you see, when we hear this one is saying we are getting medicine, and the government is saying we are not getting medicine. There is a communication breakdown.
Would it have changed your perception?
And then you see,
Peter,
and you see, yes?
Would it have changed your views if the medicine is provided?
It would change my view a little bit. But see, these people want to come home. Let them come home. 100 people, Mr. Oguna, it's not a lot of people.
It's just even one person is one too many.
It's one too many.
Yes, and that is why you see.
Yeah, but I also
Peter, thank you. I wanted to also go to Joe Kamau, is in Mombasa. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Latif.
Yes, how are you doing? Colonel Cyrus Oguna is in the studio. Do you think the Kenyans should be evacuated or not?
Yeah, he's there giving us a lot of hogwash about nothing, because it doesn't take 30 days to develop evacuation protocols. It does not take that long for professionals who are being paid by us, the taxpayers, to develop protocols to evacuate people from Wuhan. What is so difficult about quarantining the people for 15 days in Wuhan? Somewhere the government could provide that. Then quarantine them here, maybe in a military base. Then testing them once they get here. So when he tells us that we need to be careful, that anything could happen when these people are being evacuated, honestly, that I have very unkind words for that.
So you are saying that what he's saying doesn't make sense at all?
Worse than not making sense, it's total. He's on the radio line, because
so you think
no way.
So you think that what you're saying is what makes sense?
No. I'm saying what he is saying does not make sense. I'm not speaking on behalf of the government.
No, what am I saying? That what you're saying is perhaps more sensible.
But by my opinion, definitely 100 times more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. Have a good day in Mombasa.
Bye.
0719-012-600. We are taking your calls this morning. We want to ask you, should the government evacuate the Kenyans who are in Wuhan? We have 100 Kenyans, 91 students and 9 non-students who are in Wuhan. And the government says this is not the best action to take because, as Colonel Cyrus Oguna is saying, transporting them from there to here could also expose them. But beyond that, what else?
As you answer that, Colonel Oguna, there's one question that does come in, and of course something that needs to shed some light on. If top government officials were also locked down in Wuhan, would it be that we would say that there would still be a risk to bring them out?
Yes.
Or would they remain there?
I think...
If the Minister for
let me put it this way.
Was in Wuhan.
No, health.
If the Minister of Health
was in Wuhan.
If the CS Ministry of Health was in Wuhan.
Anyone who would have been in Wuhan, it would have been the same, right? Because just like Wuhan is perhaps right now the safest place to be, honestly, But there's something that has said by one of the callers earlier on, is that we are the first world is doing this. Why don't in other countries so do they? But I also look at this way, and I'm sure Siti Munga would agree with us, that there are issues of geopolitics as well that is playing out. So if we don't necessarily take such issues into consideration, we may be jumping into such a conclusion without necessarily analyzing certain actions that are being taken.
So it's
Even
our debt that's also making us not
it's
do
not a
these
question
things.
of debt, geopolitics here, but you must also look at it broadly, issues to do with Huawei and stuff like that. So look at it,
It's
from a more global perspective.
Look at the world trade. Look at the position of China vis-a-vis the West. Look at the competition.
Hello.
Look at the impact.
Musa in Nairobi, good morning.
Morning to you.
Morning.
I congratulate you for you have done the very rarest thing in the use of media. And I think that's the way to go for all media, to be solving problems directly and telling people the exact what is happening. But I have a concern. The government officer there is trying to emphasize that the evacuation of the people is too difficult, is too risky. But we are concentrating on the risk part instead of prevention part, because it is not as if everybody who has evacuated their people who have been infected.
Yeah.
So, and we have our people, God has helped, they have not been infected. And there is the process process of being infected, which is very elaborately known and is being controlled by the government of China, and the Kenyan government can be able to do that. So about keeping the people under the epicenter and saying it is reducing, and the margin of reducing is being taken to even to be effective is to stay another month.
Yeah.
I don't think it is good. If at all now a person dies there because they have been infected, this government will not be able to handle the repercussion. Because the people will be too pained, the Kenyan people.
Yeah.
I think the best thing is to take every precaution. Let us evacuate these people. We are seeing these people who are pregnant, 2 women. The risk is everywhere, whether they go to hospital and they are coming to term, and they are risking these 2 months, which they are remaining, or 3 months, because the epicenter is there, and this reduction or dying off of the virus impact is going to take another 30 days.
So evacuate them, basically.
Too big a risk. Say again.
So just evacuate them.
Yes.
Thank you,
And it is
Musa.
the best option for now, not the other way.
Thank you,
Because
Musa.
the government, the officer is concentrating on the risk instead of how to prevent them, and they are okay, how to guard their health not to be infected.
Maybe prevention would have been, like you're saying, is to get them supplies and to get the medication.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm saying that, in terms of prevention, perhaps it would be better that they get medical supplies and medical assistance and also other provisions.
We are getting you. But what we are saying, let that be done while evacuation is the option out, not the medication and supply in the epicenter.
So first priority should be get them out.
Yes.
Okay, Musa. Asante sana.
The medication, let them reach. The food, let them reach. But let us hear that they are being planned for evacuation, immediate evacuation.
Let me ask you a question, sir. What in your mind would the evacuation provide for? What would it solve?
It would solve this. One, where they are, even they are saying also they are lucky that they have gone out, they have come back, and they are safe. So it is a matter of risking, because especially when the supplies get more difficult to get, the process of getting is becoming more longer. Exposure is becoming more longer. Now you can supply them with the food and medication, but the virus itself is still impacting in Wuhan, is the epicenter. If now by bad luck we get 1 or 2 of them infected and they die, who will we blame?
Well, we don't wish that one of them gets infected and right.
This is not a matter of wishful thinking, Bwana Nani.
And nakwambia, of course we cannot tell, we have to wish, because we don't know whether any of them will be infected, but we are also grateful to the Almighty that up to now none of them has been infected.
But Colonel, I think I get what he's saying. If one of them, just like that, they were stepping out, they were going to get, new provisions at the store. One of them just got infected. just because of being near there, around there, they are exposed.
There have been those who have been...
against a backdrop from what they've told us of constantly being checked on and constantly being...
being checked on does not say that you cannot get it.
No. Of course...
You're being checked on a regular basis because you are in the epicenter. You're exposed to this.
I think I should have premised what I'm saying by saying that indeed it would be a good plan if evacuation was considered. But it's against that backdrop that I'm saying what we have heard from the students who are in Wuhan, they are telling us that attention is being given to them. They don't get supplies as they would like to. And some of them don't get medical supplies as they would wish to. I would have preferred if the argument for evacuation was, look, emotionally and psychologically, it is trying when somebody is out of the country, you hear they're unwell, you hear of these problems, and you're not quite sure what's happening. You are better off having them home. When they're within your vicinity, the magnitude of the concern is lessened simply because you know that these people are here.
Now, I'll respond to that, City, and tell you there are new cases in Wuhan on a daily basis.
There are new cases which are reducing in Wuhan on a daily basis.
They are reducing, yes, but new people are getting infected on a daily basis.
Let's also do this. The impression that has been painted that everybody who gets infected dies. And that's not true.
And that's not even the point.
But we don't even want anybody to die. But what you're saying is this, that based on what has come through, is that they are, like just City Muga is saying, that they are constantly being monitored.
Just like all the others.
And it means they are just like all the others. So in the event that one of them perhaps, is found
infected,
he will be treated.
Yes.
He or she will be treated because there are those that have been treated
and they stand a 2% chance of dying.
Majority of them have actually recovered.
The point is that they are in exposure.
Yes, they are.
And just like all the other Chinese who are there, the 11 million Chinese who are residents of Wuhan, all of them are getting tested on a daily basis.
Yes.
But 1,000 at least are getting infected on a daily basis. Now, one of those 1,000 could be the Kenyan.
The numbers are dropping, Eric.
They're dropping, yes, but they're still 1,000.
No, but you see, if they're dropping, then it means that the efforts that are being working.
Constant if it's dropping.
Yes.
So
I'm
really,
just saying that the latest figures, they're 1,000 and something.
The
figures are dropping. Eric, by end of March, they'll have reduced.
Allow me to say this.
Yes.
But also, let's not incite our people. Because the reality that these numbers that are dropping, so that's an indication that the efforts that are being put are working. Yes. So when you say that, when we try to incite the people out there by giving information that the situation is so bad, then of course we not be very, very, fair to them. So let's give them hope, which is real hope that yes, where it started is not where it is now. The situation has much, much improved, and thanks to the effort that are being put by the Chinese government.
What is also strange about epidemics of this sort is that they have like a shelf life. I know it sounds strange, but they do. They may kill very many people. I mean, if you're talking about influenza, the influenza in Spain that killed close to 40 to 50 million, or the Asian flu, 2 million, forget those. They have a season, they rise, they peak, and then it dies out. Remember, this is a virus. Now, some are seasonal, and they're seen during, say, winter, in some places that have winter.
Let me cut you short, City, because we're coming to the top of the hour. Final yes or no, evacuation or not?
They should be evacuated.
It is something that we are looking at. We are looking at, and we are in constant communication with our people on the ground. That is our embassy in Beijing. And, it is not completely off the in tray, but as of now, they are much safer in Wuhan. Yes.
Thank you very much, Colonel Cyrus Oguna, for joining us. The government spokesperson. Of course, you've said you will come again so that we can talk about sometime next week but one. We talk about locusts.
If they'll still be there.
No, it's a good point he has made.
If the locusts will
and
still be
also clarity on the government plan, because it looks like we missed the memo. When the government said
they have an agreement.
When they had it under control, what did they mean? To spread it to other counties or to stop them from spreading?
Thank you very much.